the signal clear, Johnny.
What is going on, Whisper Nation? It is another live mock draft with the Fantasy Whispers. I'm Austin Sear. That's Big Travie. That's Johnny Game Time Hicks. We are doing our League of Record settings. This is a personal mock draft for us as we've got our League of Record draft coming up. It's Labor Day weekend, as I know a lot of you out there in the fantasy football world are, and looking forward to it, as are we. So this is going to be a little bit different of a take for us, as we're going to be drafting with some of our league mates who have already jumped in and joined us, and really looking forward to going through this. It's a 12-team standard draft, 6-point passing touchdowns per quarterback, no PPR. Kickers, defenses will not be a part of this mock draft, though, just 13 rounds. And otherwise, pretty standard on this one. 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, tight end, flex, quarterback, 6-point passing touchdowns. And boy, am I excited. Johnny, Travis, what did I miss right there?
Nothing, man. That's you're right. We're excited about this one. We've been doing like most leagues are right now, trying to get ready for this COVID off season and this COVID regular season, and just really excited to come together. We said, we're gonna get into regular season mode, do our Wednesday night show, but put it up on YouTube Live and do another mock draft because we're addicted.
Because
And
why not?
Yeah.
How many have you guys done today off air?
Oh my god!
I've done 5.
Okay.
today.
All right. I did 3, and I thought I was kind of going overboard. So hearing that Big Travie did 5 makes me feel good.
I did
Well,
too.
it was a big news day too. There's a good amount of blurbs today. And
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Be-
2 days. 2 days after I freaking take Miles Sanders in the first round of our 16-team, listener league, having the faith, believing all the hype, taking him over my bromance and Nick Chubb, and of course, what happens? Soft tissue issue with freaking Miles Sanders. God, this is unbelievable. I can't
You did get the concussion from Chubb though too, so
yeah,
football injuries happen.
It does seem like Miles Sanders is okay. What they've been saying is he'll be ready by week 1. So you just like to see him practice in full before that week. But yeah, not something you like to see from a guy we're finally seeing Doug Peterson call bell cow in his offense, and then he gets hurt. So
Yeah.
that's kind of tough to see. But either way, we're excited to get through this. It was a big news day. So after a blurb came out every time today, I would like jump on and do another mock and change up a strategy or try to work with some things there. So I was excited to do that. But we're letting this thing fill up. You guys can get the link to this draft. We've got about 4 spots left. You can get the link to this on our Twitter. We'll drop it there. Johnny, can we put it in the chat here?
Yeah, I think so. First off, we have Philly Chelsea in the chat saying Philly Chelsea had the insight, should have stayed away from Miles. Unbelievable. I can't believe that. She's already throwing shade at my team. And second of all, she is in this chat right now, but why is she not in the mock draft with us? This is unbelievable. She's in this league. That's what I want to know. So I don't want to hear any shame thrown at my Miles Sanders pick there. If you're not willing to enter the cage.
I think she really wants you to stay away from Miles Sanders so she can draft.
Don't tempt Philly Chelsea right now, Johnny, man. Like, you don't have to live with Philly Chelsea.
Yeah, that's true.
And living with Philly Chelsea is a saint. Chelsea will go down in the history books. Philly Chelsea will go down on your mom and give her crabs. Like, this one is crazy. And I don't need to live with this, like, windows getting broken or things coming out because she's trying to throw a jab at you, Johnny. So please keep my house kosher in this space if you could, because Philly Chelsea's no joke. And she scares me.
I was talking about, we got 7 watching with us, 8 watching with us now, 5 likes. We're getting there. We're filling this thing up. Rock Lee.
Also, hey, I'm not gonna lie, dude. I want to see some of her secrets. I want to see some of her secrets.
Chelsea secrets?
Yeah.
Dude, she's got good ones too. Like, I got to give her credit on these. She's had a couple of 2 super late sleepers that she's picked up over the years that were league win status. The most recent one was Tyler Lockett before he was Tyler Lockett. This was back when Doug Baldwin was still there, but he was just kind of fading out. She took Tyler Lockett in the 13th, and he ended up being a borderline wide receiver 1. The better one, the one that I love so much, and it was on my team, so I've taken credit for this in years past, but she was the one on my shoulder whispering in my ear. This was Denver Broncos running back Knowshon Moreno in the first year with Peyton Manning, and everybody thought it was going to be there was Hilliard, and there was who was the other Monty
Ball. Yeah.
Right. And everyone was thinking those guys were the dudes. And then Knowshon Moreno, I remember that it was an opening night game and they announced who the starting roster is, and Knowshon Moreno, running back, Knowshon Moreno. And I was like, oh my God, I got him in the 14th round and I might have Peyton Manning starting running back. And he was
was that the endless Knowshon Moreno crying in the national anthem?
Yeah, he had a
just
big
like
year that year.
The dramatic teardrops.
Hey, and you guys are also you're missing the one of the biggest. I mean, both those were great. Like Knowshon was a great one, and she's had way more than that. But probably her best one was you took Devontae Adams 3 years ago in his breakout year, or 2 years ago in a breakout year, when he had like the monster 13 touchdowns and 1,400 yards, and
Jordy Nelson was still around.
Yeah, and Chelsea grabbed him in the 4th round. And so Philly, I'm telling you, Philly Chelsea's no joke. Look at this. This is filling up here. We have one spot left. Heck yeah. Let's fill this up, and then we can begin this draft.
Give a big shout out to everybody here in the fantasy football draft room here on Sleeper. We got Jacob Bley, #1 fan in the 2 spot. What's going on, Jacob Bley? Effect Ahead, our boy Matt Potvin in our League of Record. Hanimal, #4, another League of Record member. Rockley OP, member of the Listener League. Good to have you. Big Travie at 7. We got cutting the name off there. Is it defending 8 champ? Defending 8 champ. I think it says there in the 8th spot. Johnny Game Time Hicks at the 9. The Legend FF Fortune at the 10. Alex P. Keaton 11, and Groggy Style at 12. Thank you guys all for being here. And our final member, Tyler 17X, now at the 6th spot.
We got a full room.
We're full boat here.
Should we get this bad boy started?
Yeah, let's do it.
Fire her up.
All right. So I'm on the #1 spot here. I'm thinking about it for realsies. I love the top 3. I love Zeke, I love Saquon, and I love CMC, as I believe that most people do. CMC, those 100+ targets are super nice, but with a change in coach, change in quarterback, change in system, I'm going to go with who I think is the #1 talent in the NFL at the running back position, who I believe is also going to be the main vein of their offense, and whose rookie year got close to 100 targets and last year was dealing with a high ankle sprain all season and still produced over 1,000 yards while he missed I don't even know how many games he missed. It was 4 or something like that. It's Saquon Barkley for me at the #1 overall pick.
Well, I guess I could have started the draft there, but you were just had such a sweet monologue going. I wanted to let you keep going with it, but then I was like, well, why don't you pick him already? Usually Johnny's got the keys to start the draft, but I had him tonight, so I'm sitting there like, let's start it already.
I was like, oh man, start it? Is he gonna start it? Because I'm like, we're gonna.
That was my bad, guys. My bad there.
Now we roll with that there. And then Chris McCaffrey and Ezekiel Elliott, per expectations, go in here. Man, I love once again 3 spot. That's my favorite spot right now. What do you guys think? Starting off,
of course,
is there a spot you like more
that
than 3
spot because he wants the decision made for him. Typical Potvin.
Yeah.
Oh, and then you get the earliest.
I
and then
think
you get that.
anything in the top 4 this year, maybe even top 5 is good. If you can't get within there, I like to go to the other side, especially on a 12 team. I think the middle, which is probably where I'll end up having to pick because of the way the lottery of picks worked out for me this year, is not something I'm enjoying. But this is why you mock. You get ready for
me when you did that. Why did you look up at me like that?
Why?
You know why?
Unreal,
so Johnny.
It was sorry, dude.
I'm legit
luck of the ball.
Johnny's draft-o-matic, dropping in golf balls for some people, ping pong balls for others. But that's a topic for another day. But no, Travi, I really want to know seriously on this one though. 1 through 3, it's consensus, pretty clear-cut decision there. Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, Ezekiel Elliott, whatever order you like. You're saying though 4 or 5 is pretty choice for you. Who are you seeing in those 4 or 5 positions that make it such a ideal spot?
I think as it's pretty as chalky as it went right now. I would even make a case for Dalvin Cook ahead of Alvin Kamara.
Mhm.
And I think even if you got a little, you get a little froggy and take CEH within the top 5, I think you're okay. You're kind of going for it. But I would say the top 5 as it stands in this draft right now, especially in a standard league, especially with Dalvin Cook's contract situation seeming to be a thing of the past right now. They're just going to focus on this year, both the team and Dalvin Cook. I really like what I'm seeing out of Dalvin Cook heading into the year. Yes, I know the health is an issue for him, but really you could say health is an issue for any running back or any
For a
NFL
football
player.
player, right?
Yeah. So especially in a COVID year. So I'm going to go ahead and take the risk on a Dalvin Cook, who's an every down player for a team that lost receiving weapons. So he should get an uptick in receiving and get an uptick in usage, even maybe because they will need to rely even more on the run this year.
And somebody who's going to be that main vein of his offense, which brings me to a question I wanted to hear Game Time and your take on. If the talent level is pretty equal for the running back, would you rather have a running back who's the main vein of their offense, but on a slower paced, run heavy offense like a Minnesota? Or would you rather have the number one running back on a very high powered, high volume offense where they're not the main vein? It doesn't go through the ground, but they are that number one choice, like, say, a CEH in Kansas City. Would you rather have a CEH in Kansas City? It's not his team, but he is the number one running back, or a Dalvin Cook where you could say it's his team?
I saw an interesting take. I'm still leaning Dalvin Cook. I saw an interesting or
And
listened
not
to an
and not
interesting.
not CEH or Dalvin Cook, but just like in general speaking, which
Well,
narrative
I
would you
think
rather
that's a
roll with?
good. I think that's a good one or two, and I also think Rich Rebar of pre-snap motion and sharp football analysis was talking on their podcast, and they were talking a little bit about Miles Sanders versus CEH. And if you actually look at Miles Sanders, injuries aside, you look at Miles Sanders being more of a focal point of his offense than CEH would be because of all the other pass catching options
Yeah.
in Kansas City, as opposed to over there with with Miles Sanders being the focal point of the Phillies. So for me, yeah, I kind of want the focal point more times than not, but I understand wanting to go with some of these sexier picks based on the good offense.
That was the exact conversation Philly Chelsea and I were having during the listener league draft just the other day. Our number one pick, we were going at 8 in a 16 teamer, and we were talking beforehand between CEH and Miles Sanders. That was the two that we were going back and forth between, and really, really close for me. I personally would rather have the main running back on a team that I think is going to score more touchdowns. And maybe they get a lower percentage of the touchdowns, but there's more touchdowns to get than, say, like a Miles Sanders, who's going to be getting a higher percentage of the touchdowns, but I think Philly's going to be scoring less touchdowns overall, making less first downs happen overall
Yeah,
than
I
Kansas City
even
would be.
even in a high-powered offense like that though, Austin, I'm worried about trying to bank on touchdowns because they are so volatile.
Yeah.
It's one of the hardest stats for you to go after. And typically what equates to more touchdowns is more yardage. So typically it's going to be that guy that gets more volume that will end up turning into touchdowns, right? That you have the yards to touchdown ratio
Sure.
as a great way to try to quantify your touchdown upset.
Perfect. And I thought of that as well. I still am leaning on CEH though, because of that dynamic offense with all the weapons that they have in Kansas City. You're never stacking the box. It's going
Yeah,
to
I think
create open lanes for CEH to bust out through. Hello,
look,
60-yard breakaways.
I'm not mad at it, and I understand it. I'm probably going CH over Miles Sanders in that spot more times than not. And Johnny, I just wanted to talk to you though, because I think it probably comes down to Andy Reid, right? If you look at Andy Reid and how many years he's put a top 12 running back on the field when he's had that one guy in fantasy, you're like, okay, yeah, that's probably why I'm leaning with you.
Well, I mean, I'm just some concerns are starting to creep up in my mind with CEH. I mean, there's definitely the extreme upside for sure. So if you're wanting to swing for the upside, if that's the type of player that you are, then for sure you're like go with CEH because he definitely does have the path to like the higher ceiling in my eyes because like everything that both of you guys are saying is absolutely true. More touchdowns for Kansas City, more opportunity, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
What my concern is that, I am not sold that, Andy Reid had indicated that Damian Williams was going to have a pretty, significant role in this offense, before he opted out. And what's to say that, one of these other running backs or, it isn't split amongst the running backs now that secondary role, right? And so CH technically should be still going in the second round based on that information. And so I don't know if that information is correct or if it's false, right? Like I can't confirm that. All I can say is like what I'm seeing from, beat writers and things like that is that there are some concerns at whether he will be the main guy. And so like I don't want to spend my first rounder with that much concern to me. I rather have a safer floor, realizing that the ceiling might not be there. But let's be real, like Miles Sanders, if he's given that main dog role like we think he is, and what everything is kind of showing he's going to be, like that's a big opportunity. Like that's a lot of fantasy points, and like the difference to me is not more than what I would feel like the floor is of Miles Sanders. Does that make sense? I don't know if I explained that right. I just think that Miles Sanders has a safer floor and almost as equal ceiling as CH.
I would agree with that. No, I like your summary there. You kind of made it up. I would agree with that. And I think CH is tantalizing because of the offense, but I think you get a little drunk sometimes off of the upside of an offense when you could really look at like if Miles Sanders becomes the lead dog in this offense, we're probably drafting him within the top 5 next year if he has a fully healthy season and we see what he's capable of.
Yeah,
just on that kind of
that's definitely true. And the only challenge from it would be the only time you see a running back who's not on a great offense do those crazy kinds of, pushing 300 fantasy points at the end of the season is when they are elite talents. And Miles Sanders is very talented. Is he an elite talent? Is he on that same level as Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, or Derrick Henry? I haven't seen it yet. I know that the coaching staff and Philly fans will say, hell yeah. I just haven't seen it yet to crown him at that level. But I know what the Kansas City Chiefs offense is about, and I know what Andy Reid does to running backs, whether it's Jamal Charles, Kareem Hunt, or one of his backs back in Philly. So I think that upside, and because you just can't stack the box, like I'm excited to see that. But Johnny, I love your point there of saying, having that higher floor. And I think in those early rounds, especially in the first round, like there are so many swing for the fence plays that you can take moving on. Your first pick, though, you want to be able to bank on who that is. You don't want to be saying like, oh, you get a guy who ends up being part of a committee that you take in the first round. So maybe the safer floor is something definitely to consider if you're going back and forth between upside or floor in your first pick.
I like FF
right
Fortunes here. FF Fortune says Sanders actually finished with more points than Jacobs, even though he started less games, and Jacobs is the one getting the hype this offseason. Yeah, and I think the difference there is what we're talking about. The pass catching ability of Miles Sanders is clearly there. And if you talk about all these questions in the wide receiving room, Miles Sanders is pretty locked into being a pass catching threat for Philly. And I know that that's going to be there for CEH, not to keep driving this home 3 rounds in, CEH versus Miles Sanders. But it was a pretty good topic, and it's nice to get through these conundrums because we're getting close to drafting season. If you guys want to see how we've projected each and every player out and your draft is coming up this weekend, please go over to thefantasywhisperers.com, download our draft kit. It's $15. It's a great price. You look at what's out there in the industry, and we are really just a great price for you. And we know it's been tough this offseason to get committed to a football season, but it's around the corner. We're getting that feeling this week. We've had training camp rocking and rolling. We've got news blurbs coming in. Like this season's going to happen. And we can't guarantee much, but we can guarantee they're going to at least give it a shot, and we can guarantee we put a bunch of work into this draft kit for you guys. So go over to thefantasywhisperers.com, check that out.
It's going to give you that immediate shortcut right there.
Yeah, exactly. I see we've got 10 watching. Thank you guys so much for watching right now. If you guys could hit that like button, that would help us out a ton. It's funny here. Jacob giving everybody a little shade here. He says, now you guys are telling these convos 2 days later. Jacob's talking about our Whisper Nation Listener League draft. He said, where were these combos then? He wanted some of that advice then, but we had to keep that a little close to the chest there, Jacob.
Dude, speaking of ones close to the chest with it, I was getting really excited, Travis, at the turn of picking up James Conner after being crunching the numbers a little bit harder, and I was like, where the hell is James Conner?
Yeah.
He's always here at the turn. And then I look over and you take him at 2-6. Dude, James Conner, I'm sorry, man. He is being slept on.
Yes.
Every other guy back there, whether it's McFarland,
Yes.
Benny Snell, another person Johnny hates, pick a back over there in Pittsburgh. It doesn't matter because they're all like the same age. They're all like the same age. James Conner is going into his 4th year. They're all 25 or under. James Conner is the only one to have at least 4 yards a carry in each one of the seasons. I thought it was 3.9 last year. I saw it was 4 yards per carry or really close to it. He is
and
the
that's
best
with
running
the
back.
other defenses knowing they were going to have to run.
Yes.
And I think that was the thing is like that everybody that they played last year knew that was their whole offense was James Conner, and I just think I couldn't agree more. I have him as one of my he is my bromance this year at the running back position. I still think he's a league winner capable. I think he's got top 5 upside. Everything is there. Similar to Juju, who I believe is getting slept on as well in that offense. Yeah.
First of all, I don't mind James Conner. I just am worried about I'm worried about his injury concerns. Okay. And beyond that, I am actually keeping James Conner in a keeper league, thank you very much, as my second running back behind Alvin Kamara. So you can't see.
Yeah, I don't know if the joke was
like,
so much. I don't think the joke was so much on James Conner as it is the backup situation. As a couple mock drafts ago, we did get into some heated stuff about that.
Yeah,
but one of the things Johnny will
like on that.
On the,
I don't believe so.
We'll let Easy Daddy be the judge of who won that debate. But I want to talk a little bit about in that same kind of tier, in that same kind of ADP as James Conner, is another boy I was doing some number crunching on, and this one I think is going to hit Johnny's ears a little better, and that's Chris Carson. And Chris Carson is a guy I think is also being slept on. He's not a sexy pick for some reason, but this is a dude who's pushing 300 touches. He's not a slop catching the ball. And I know they got a lot of running backs over there, and Pete Carroll is the perennial optimist who thinks everybody's about to be the next superstar. And he does pull these running backs out of a hat like he's a magician. James Conner, Chris Carson was one of them. Like, where the hell did this dude come from? But the guys behind him, whether it's Rashad Penny, whether it's DJ Dallas, whether it's they always have a lot. Chris Carson, just like James Conner, is the best choice. He's not that old. I know he's coming back from some injury. So is the rest of that running back room. And Chris Carson doesn't have any reason, as far as I'm concerned, to be legitimately challenged for that lead spot. And a lead spot in a Seattle, despite their offensive line issues, the dynamic nature of Russell Wilson makes it so the defense is always guessing, which I think makes up a lot for that shoddy line they have, which just means Chris Carson's going to feast. I don't think you can go wrong with taking him wherever you take him.
Yeah, he's definitely one of my favorites in that realm of guys that are going there, because there's Leonard Fournette, there's Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, Todd Gurley even, and you're just like, ugh, I don't know if I want any of these guys. But Chris Carson is the one that kind of stays true for me in that area because, yeah, he's got the injury risk, but he's in such a good offense that's committed to running the ball each year, and he has just done nothing but outperform people's expectations each and every year. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of Chris Carson, especially where he's going at cost right now compared to some of those other guys around him.
Yeah, I solely expect his catches to go up. Rashad Penny is on the PUP, and so he's only eligible to come back after week 8, and
I thought he was expected to be there for week 1. That's locked in.
That's the last that I had seen. I could double check.
Penny?
We're
talking about Penny, right?
Yeah, Penny. That's what I thought I saw. Was that
Penny? There's fear that Penny will end up on the PUP.
Yeah.
It does have that history with it there.
So that's my only or that's not my with Penny starting like that. I do see it. The first 8 weeks of Chris Carson are going to be phenomenal because I think he'll get both the rushing and the passing work. Maybe not 100% of it, but I think he'll get the majority of it. And I think fantasy owners are going to be really happy. I think, like Travis said, he always outperforms his ADP, and it's like it's not a sexy pick for some reason, but it's like you talked about like going to an offense where you're the guy and you run a lot. Like Seattle runs the ball a lot, and I know we all want them to pass more because we think that's not what they do. Like, they continue to run the ball, and they continue to have faith in Chris Carson, even when he fumbled a ton. Like, they still, had faith in him. So it's like, I don't
But
know.
for the love of God, please just unleash Russell Wilson this year. Please
I
do
know
it.
that would be
Please
pretty.
do it. I mean, could you imagine it? Like, I mean, you could see DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett both in the top 10 if they were to really let Russell Wilson kind of roll. And I just think Russell
Evans
Wilson.
and Chris Godwin.
Yeah, it's essentially that, and it's like two different style wide receivers that kill it in their game, and the most efficient quarterback throwing them the ball. Like, it could be better than Mike Evans and Chris Godwin from what we've seen, because we've got a guy that's not throwing interceptions every other play, and like Jameis Winston was. So I think there's a real situation here where Russ, who's thrown 30 or more touchdowns in 3 straight years, and that's without high pass attempts in the NFL. So like, imagine if he was able to push that up. But yeah, I would agree with Johnny. Like, Chris Carson's a pretty safe bet in a realm of running backs right there, in a pocket of running backs that are not very safe. You got Todd Gurley's knee, you got David Johnson off injuries going to a new offense. You've got Le'Veon Bell with a coach who doesn't even like him. There's just these running backs right there. They're kind of seasoned vets. And Chris Carson, you're looking at him like, why are we still doubting him above those other guys?
That's a great point. He's of all those guys, and then you could throw in Leonard Fournette into that
definitely.
group. Another one with the
I just don't like
team
saying his
issues.
name too much, so
Not good for the SEO, right? Yeah, but there is. Speaking of these ones here, in this 4th and 5th round, I know that 4th and 5th rounds always have league winners found in them. This year, especially to me, has the deepest set of upside plays in the 4th round. And I think the way it's shaken out here in our draft going on in our 4th and 5th round is where you're going to expect most of them in regular drafts to be going as well. But like, look at some of these names. Like, my goodness, Allen Robinson, DJ Moore, Todd Gurley, Odell Beckham, Mark Ingram, Juju, Jonathan Taylor, Ronald Jones, DeAndre Swift, these upside rookies, these running backs that if they all of a sudden got anointed as the one, they'd be going 2 rounds earlier. And then these wide receivers who have been top 10s in their own careers are still young. And I'm just looking at this stack over here in the 4th, 5th rounds, and I'm like, my goodness, if I could like move back in the 1st and pick up an extra 4th and a 5th round, I would be considering it right here just because of how juicy these rounds are looking.
yeah, there's just a run right now, and I'm gonna try and complete this.
I'm a little frustrated because with the Kareem Hunt pick, I was going between Kareem Hunt and Russell Wilson. I was really hoping that Russell was gonna fall to me in the 6th, so I get that double dip. And so I went with Kareem Hunt, and Russell Wilson got taken, and then I was like, oh, I'll just go Kyler Murray, and then Kyler Murray got taken. So I was like, all right, well, I'll just go.
There was a nasty run on quarterbacks.
And then
I was really hoping to get
back-to-back rounds takes my wide receivers. Unbelievable.
Johnny, you went with Deshaun Watson, who's always a good choice.
Yeah.
Great snack there at QB. No one's hating that. But you took him over Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
Which is a little surprising, especially from someone who loves CeeDee Lamb, loves Michael Gallup. We talked about Zeke before. Can you tell me a little bit about what made you decide to take Deshaun Watson out of Houston over Dak Prescott, the reigning number 3 overall quarterback?
I just think we've never seen Deshaun Watson stealing. I think that we have thought we have, but he's been so consistent on knocking on the door of being the number 1 overall fantasy quarterback, and he's fallen short. He's come second a couple of years in his career. We do need to remember, like, we laugh about it all the time because coming out of college, his college coach called him, equated him, said, you're getting Michael Jordan on the football field, and we laughed about it. But it's like, this guy is legit. Like, he makes plays, and now you're putting him again behind his best offensive line he's ever had in his career. And then I know we laugh at the moves that Bill O'Brien.
How good is that? Is it? I know it's the best ever, but going from like 29 to 26, like, it's better.
I mean,
Is it legit?
Yeah.
Is it legit? I'm not trying to bust balls. Like, is it legit now? Like, did they make enough moves to make this line?
I mean,
solid.
I could pull up our draft kit cheat
It's
sheet.
It's definitely the best line. Like Johnny likes to say, it's the best line he's played for. I don't know how much you want to equate that to being better, but I do want to say this about the whole situation. I believe they're setting Deshaun Watson up for success, and it's kind of weird to say when you've seen this team's traded away DeAndre Hopkins, but they've literally have a more diverse wide receiver room than they've ever really had, and it's just all these burners and guys that can play multiple positions. I think they want to stretch the field and go as deep as they can, and if that doesn't work, he could bail out and run it, or
check it down.
theoretically he could
Check
check it down to DJ, but he doesn't really do that. So we'll see if that actually happens. But I think he's just got everything he needs to be that top guy. So I like Johnny's take here. I don't mind it. I really wanted Dak to fall to me there at 6'6", and he did not. But I think Dak. I think the Cowboys' offense is ready to just be a top unit in the NFL. They're like, the poor man's Chiefs, in my opinion. They've got so many weapons. They're stacked up across the board. They're gonna throw a ton. You look at what Mike McCarthy was able to do in Green Bay. He was one of the most aggressive coaches on fourth down. He was one of the most pass-happy coaches on first down. They kept Kellen Moore, who's had really good success with his first year calling plays. Really excited about what Dallas is going to be able to do on offense, and then on defense, they're probably going to end up struggling a little bit more than they thought on defense, and that's going to push for more plays ran. So yeah, I'm leaning Dak, but I understand the argument for the gamer Deshaun Watson. I did want to get to this comment we have Justin Goff. It may be Jared Goff's little brother. I'm not sure. 10-team standard scoring. I'm allowed one keeper. Would you keep Melvin Gordon the third and lose the 5th round pick, Mostert, or lose a 17th round? AJ Brown loses 17th, and running backs are always a premium in this league. I would lose. I would lose the 17th and keep AJ. I think you lose a lot of. I mean, I think you got the upside of AJ returning you a lot of value. I wouldn't go to keep Melvin Gordon because as much as I think the situation's fine. Yeah. Well, as much as I think the situation's fine, I think they can both live there. AJ Brown is his whole team's offense for the most part through the passing game.
I want to touch on Melvin Gordon just for a little bit because he was somebody that in the last week I was personally really excited about coming around to me at the end of the second, beginning of the third, that kind of range, being like, oh man, I'm about to get a dude who's so good, he's going to hold out on his team last year because he's like, respect it, man, pay me what I'm worth. And they're like, we are already doing that. And then he was like, oh, damn, I'm going to try to just get back to what I was making because you look at his numbers and where they're at. And like, this dude has gone under 4 yards per carry multiple times in a season. This dude finished with 0 touchdowns in a season. He doesn't have the best hands. He doesn't have any elite points to his game. His health is not a strength of his either. And I know they paid him. I know they brought him in. I know you're going to have a good running setup over there in Denver, but Philip Lindsay is no joke. Philip Lindsay is kind of like the opposite. He always outperforms what his coaches and drafters expect of him, as Melvin Gordon most of the time kind of underperforms on this. So I think that you might be seeing a closer to a 50-50 split once they get to see what Melvin Gordon's really all about there in Denver, the Mile High City where he's having a hard time breathing.
Yeah, he did say that.
I will. The one thing I will say, I will counter with that is that they paid Melvin Gordon to come in and be the touchdown guy because Melvin Gordon knows how to score touchdowns amongst it. Like you can part of the go look at his stats over the last
rookie year.
That was the only year he didn't score any touchdowns. Then he bounced back and had over 10 touchdowns the very next year. And
dude, he's averaged 14 points per game on a fantasy aspect with guys like Austin Eckler or Danny Woodhead within the backfield. It doesn't matter that there's going to be guys there. He scored 14 points per game with them there.
And then also,
I don't.
Yeah, but Austin Eckler wasn't Austin Eckler when he was playing.
And then
at the same time,
and then
right?
also he's going from.
I mean, yeah, he was. He's been Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler's been good. Yeah, I mean, he's been effective.
He's been effective the last few years, and yeah. But even
with
before
the limited
that,
role that they've given
Woodhead.
him, but they've never given Eckler a featured role, and they never gave Woodhead a featured role either. Those are like the Theo Riddick of the Detroit Lions role, and this was in an earlier era of fantasy football too, where this Alvin Kamara, Austin Eckler role now that we have, it's all valuable, and halfbacks getting all of these targets. It was different then, and it was just like a pure third down role, and that was the role Austin Eckler served for the majority of Melvin Gordon's time over there, right?
Well, I also want to point out that the LA Chargers have the 30th ranked offensive line, and he is going to the Denver Broncos, which have the Oh, I just had it. The 14th best offensive line in the league. So
All
he's quite significantly upgrading, and that offensive line has been pretty terrible his whole career. And so I think if Melvin Gordon, if people don't get him in the third, I am a fan of Philip Lindsay. I just like how he has like a chip on his shoulder and all that stuff. And I'm gonna go running out of time.
We've got
I'm trying to get talked into Melvin Gordon because I would freaking love to see Melvin Gordon on my team there at the end of the second, beginning of the third. But
I had to focus on that pick there. I wasn't sure who I wanted, and then I just went to my default because I didn't think about it hard enough. But what I'll say is like Philip Lindsay. We all love the story, and like he is a talented running back, and he's not going to go down without a fight. I'll give him that, and like they're going to use him. He'll get touches, but like they have now twice gone out and tried to bring in a running back to replace Philip Lindsay. And so as much as we all love the story and want him to succeed and see what he does on the football field, for some reason Denver Broncos organization doesn't believe in him enough around the goal line that they were going to bring in Melvin Gordon and pay him, even though he didn't get as much money as Austin Eckler or as much as he wanted. They still paid him a significant amount for a running back, and so that to me says that they are going to use him significantly around the goal line because that's what he is really good at. And you also have to realize that too, like. Yeah, his yards per attempt are under 4, but like he's rushing quite a bit, with 4 yards or less around the goal line. So that takes away from your yards per carry in that sense. So now is that a significant amount to go say, oh, he's going from 3.6 to all the way to 4.4? No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying a combination of a better offensive line paired with the fact he does get all those goal line carries, his yards per carry will go up this year for sure.
You're kind of turning me on to the idea of taking Melvin Gordon, or at least putting a little more consideration to him
I
there.
shouldn't do that. I don't know why I do that. You're in our league. I should stop doing this because every show we come on, I hear you going, well, you guys turned me on to this guy.
Once again, it's like the Chris Carson argument too. Like, if you're looking at the other guys around him, Leonard Fournette, Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, Todd Gurley, these nasty running backs that are there that have so many questions and concerns, like Melvin Gordon's concerns aren't really as bad as you would think on the surface level. It's Philip Lindsay, who is an undrafted, nice story, who is a pass catching specialist, versus the guy they made the 9th highest paid running back in the league to come in and score their touchdowns. Like, to me, it's very clear what Denver wants to do. And here's the other thing. Like, Melvin Gordon can catch some balls. He does it pretty well. Like, so to think that Philip Lindsay's for sure just going to be the third down guy is kind of like, it's a little wild to me that you would pay a back that much money and then have him cut into so much of Melvin Gordon's work.
I think it's true. And then it's we call him a pass catching specialist, and he gets a lot of that attention, and it's a pass catching world now. And you got your Alvin Kamara's going top 5 last couple of years. But we take a look at Philip Lindsay last year. I mean, he had 35 receptions for 196 yards. That's not screaming off the charts to me of like, you need to make sure this dude is on your roster in a PPR format. It's like, okay, but at 35 receptions, I mean, right? Like, so maybe Melvin Gordon really does have a better shot, and maybe Philip Lindsay's work ethic and the story and the production that he's had because of either necessity or whatever,
and then
maybe it's getting a little bit inflated, and people should be giving Melvin Gordon a little bit more consideration.
I'll 2020 season. I'll even raise you 2 more chips, Austin, on convincing you about Melvin Gordon this year. Taking out his first rookie year where he didn't get any touchdowns. From second, so 2016 years on, these are his touchdowns totals for rushing, not receiving as well, just rushing, right? 10 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns. So
touchdowns per season.
Yeah, so so one would say that he's due for 10 touchdowns this year, at least for the Denver Broncos.
Or he averages 9 touchdowns a season.
Yeah.
So.
And then and then he usually adds he's averaging roughly 2.5 touchdowns on receiving per year as well. So Melvin Gordon to me, if you're looking besides last year he only got you 138 fantasy points, so not as juicy, but the 3 prior years got you over 200 fantasy points each year. So we're given very
You
similar
got to give it
roles.
up for. Got to give it up to Mac, host of the Snap Fantasy Football Podcast, in here giving us some love. He says 18 watching, only 11 likes.
Ooh,
Help the
appreciate
boys out. We appreciate that, Mac. FF Fortune coming in says Royce Freeman had some nice games last year, so I think Gordon will definitely outdo his current ADP. Listen, FF Fortune is the god at mock drafting,
Yeah.
so I take his word for it,
Yeah, you
man. I
gotta
like
listen, I
what he's
guess.
saying here.
Sweet Aaron Rodgers mustache photo.
Yeah, you
One
couldn't. You
always
can't
makes me
hide.
feel good.
Yeah, can't fight that man right there.
At least you shouldn't, unless you like to
Yeah,
get your
no
ass
way.
whooped.
Hey-o.
I get my ass whipped by Aaron Rodgers though. That'd be fun. Like, hit me with that barbell.
Okay.
Do it
I
again.
don't know. He's all into yoga now. I feel like he's probably like doesn't even want to fight anyone. Like
Which would
he
make it
just
even better.
he'd destroy you with his insults because he's like so sarcastic and mean. He just
Quippy.
did destroy you. Yeah, he'd destroy you with his words. You wouldn't even need to fight him.
Beat me up intellectually.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh no.
All right, so we're rolling through here. Round 9. We've got about 4 rounds left.
Maybe saw it this
Excuse me.
way. Who are some of the guys that you're really hoping falling to you, or you got your eyes? And we've talked about some of these ones before. We talked about Mike Williams quite a bit. Travi and I are both big fans of Big Mike Williams. Stoked to pick him up here in this mock draft. I've personally been a Darius Slayton fan. The guy FF Fortune just snagged as well. But John, you've actually talked me a little bit off. Evan Silva did too, talking about Sterling Shepard and Golden Tate and the role they're going to have over there. And maybe it's a better idea to go for
You know
Sterling
who
Shepard.
else was talking me off of Slayton and 4 Shepard was Matt Harmon. Matt Harmon of Reception Perception was talking about Sterling Shepard and just how good Sterling Shepard was last year versus man, versus press, versus zone, like all these different things that he was really good. He's one of the elite route runners that we have in the league right now. And so, I mean, you just look at it, it's a weird situation. Even I just took Evan Ingram in the 9th, and you look at some of these guys in that New York Giants and how much they actually benefited from others being out. I just don't know if you can peg any certain one to be the main guy. So in that case, I bet on pure talent. That's kind of where I've been okay snagging Evan Ingram and okay snagging Sterling Shepard and even Darius Slayton, but like he's gotten a little too high. I don't understand why he is no doubt going ahead of these other guys. It's almost like you're just watching some of the big plays he made and not really looking at what these guys were able to do altogether.
Definitely the sexy pick, right? Slayton is. And I've talked about your acquisition of Darius Slayton in our Dynasty League multiple times. He came out of nowhere. You picked him up, and he was doing such great things for your fantasy squad and for the New York Football Giants at the end of the year.
Johnny right into Sterling Shepard right there.
Like, all right, put him on my team.
Oh, it's sold.
And Sterling Shepard landed on the pup list right before this draft happened.
Yeah,
so, Johnny, suck on those toenails.
Oh, man.
But no, seriously, like Darius Slayton came out of nowhere, did really well, but there was also injuries that were going on with the Giants at the time. And Sterling Shepard had been kind of slotted to that role. And after that plug you gave of his elite route running abilities, you're talking about a 27-year-old going into his 5th year in the league. Maybe Sterling Shepard is the one that's going to emerge as Daniel Jones's favorite target. And maybe outside of Evan Ingram, the most talented pass catcher, and Saquon Barkley that they've got on that team. Maybe that's a little one we should be putting some more consideration to in these double-digit rounds.
I think that, their schedule is pretty brutal. So I think they're going to start off a little bit slow, which is why I think it's nice to invest in Shepard because it is so cheap to invest in him. And you can see if that chemistry is at least there. If Shepard's at least drawing, 8 targets and even in difficult matchups, then okay, I've got something here. And then if not, then it's like, okay, I can cut him loose for a waiver wire guy if needed. And you didn't invest that much of a capital where, Slayton is like that. I guess Slayton only went around earlier in this one. Sometimes he jumps up. I've seen him go around like the end of the 7th or maybe end of the 8th. But yeah, so I think if you're I was always like Shepard. I just think, concussions, that's the only problem with him.
Yeah, I mean it's a concern, but like once again, we've
Yeah,
got
it's 10th round.
concerns everywhere with
Yeah.
Then that's that too, 10th round, and I like that he's being priced outside of Slayton. I don't really love Golden Tate. I just feel like when you're in these late rounds, you're like, why would you swing for the floor? In my opinion, I guess if
Yeah.
you made a wide receiving core that was really high upside, you may want to grab a guy like Golden Tate or something. But for me, it's either it's the argument for me is Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard, or Evan Ingram, and Evan Ingram plays a different position. So really, it's Darius Slayton or Sterling Shepard, and it's just your comfortability with guy who's shown it probably more often in the NFL or the big play upside that you see in Darius Slayton. And so that's what FF Fortune said here in the chat. He says, I just like his big play upside. And I can understand that. I get that, especially when you're in these later rounds. But there's a case to be made that Sterling Shepard runs away with the number 1 overall wide receiver in this trio and gives you a little bit of both upside and floor. He's kind of like that combination of Golden Tate and Darius Slayton at best case scenario.
Golden Tate, I like what you said there on Golden Tate is we know what his ceiling is, and his ceiling is like if you're in a house that was built in 1920 when everybody was a foot shorter, and it's like, man, this is like stunted. We were just house shop. We were just looking at some places
I was
recently.
just thinking about that, yeah.
And we were
Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah, so we live in
Yeah.
West Hollywood out here, and Charlie Chaplin would build these bungalows for people on his film crews out here because it was cheaper than sending them out to the hotels, like back in the day. And there's all of these like Charlie Chaplin bungalows around West Hollywood, and they're super cool and they're like historically preserved and they look like the Shire. Like they're these really, really interesting, character-driven, aesthetically enriched spaces. And then you walk inside and it's like a school for ants. It's like needs to be at least 3 times bigger. It's so weird. Like you're like, my mattress is like the size of a bag of rice. They're so small. It's so weird. Like it's so weird. But I wanted to say one point here that Johnny had brought up when we were talking.
Yeah, he's dude.
Okay, I think we should be.
27 seconds.
I think we're back.
We are back right now. Finish that point.
I think we're good.
I forget even what I was talking about now.
It was
because we got going on other. Yeah, we were going on some other things, but
we're talking about wide receivers.
God,
we were talking about wide receivers in the second half with a COVID off season.
Oh yeah. So if we've got the COVID off season going, I think as Austin said, you'd be able to trade and capitalize, but also you should be patient a little bit with not only wide receivers, but I think you should be patient with a lot of things going on and projects if you have them, or if you had a guy you liked. Like Austin said, you could probably capitalize.
Unreal.
And Johnny, just back-to-back stud running back selection.
You guys didn't pause it for me? Dude, you were in control of the clock. Unreal. My whole thing shut down, and you don't even have my back. You don't even pause it.
Why would we do...
And then,
I don't know. I was just keep going. Dude. I figured you had it on your phone. You're such a tech-savvy guy. I didn't think I
tried to pull it up, but it's
here.
showing on my phone. It showed that you paused.
Unreal,
it.
Dude. No, it doesn't.
Dude.
Come on now.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Look at this guy go.
Thanks. Now,
so
my whole
question here, Johnny. I think you did inspire 2 good topics.
It didn't get ruined in the 11th. I'll just tell you that. It was ruined a little bit before that.
No,
with your other
it
picks.
Was great
but the 2 picks did inspired some good conversation that Travi and I were having offline, and that was about the running back situation in Washington for the Washington football team, which I gotta say, I love that name. I think it's so clean and classic. And you have other you have soccer organizations.
I know people were hating on it, and I like it because they call the Giants the New York Football Giants. I kind of like that name for them. Like I don't know, it's kind of cool.
Like the LA Football Club, like out here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I like it. Just take a different flavor. I think that sometimes these like silly animal nicknames or whatever it might be just take away from the city. And the cities that these teams live in are so rich with history and character. And like, let's emphasize the people of it. My favorite team names, of course, the Green Bay Packers. Let's go, Travis. What? And other ones like these blue collar towns that are named and put such a coin on the people there and what they do, whether it's the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Cleveland Browns, because they just feel like they're always covered in dew, like whatever it is,
Well,
that's
the
a bad joke there, but
Cardinals.
out of St. Louis, I get when you're paying homage to a bird or an animal or something that lives over there. Arizona Diamondback fans, we got snakes, hello. But the city itself is just such an incredible place, and the Washington football team, I love how it doesn't take away anything from there. So that's just my point. That's a side note, an over extended one. But we're talking about the running back situation over there in Washington. AP has been named the early down back, at least to start. I heard Travis talk. We talked a little bit about Love, Bryce Love, and Gibson, who Ron Rivera has compared to CMC, but we were talking about him maybe being more of a gadget player, almost like how CMC was his rookie year. Johnny, what's your take on the running back situation right now in Washington with Adrian Peterson, Bryce Love, Antonio Gibson, and all the other guys they got back there?
I mean, you never can count out Adrian Peterson, and he's such a free dart throw. I mean, every year people pick him up. We kind of laugh. He ends up producing at least a couple of weeks for your fantasy team. Now, the unfortunate part for that one is it kind of goes against the whole strategy of like swing for the fences, because I don't think that Adrian Peterson has a 1,000-yard rushing season in him, but who's to say he doesn't? So unfortunately,
no gimp.
Yeah, like I probably won't have a lot of Adrian Peterson. I would rather go for Antonio Gibson or Bryce Love, because I feel like they have that really. I feel like their ceiling is a lot higher, and I also the same kind of thing is like if you have to cut some of these guys, like you'll know right away, like, oh, Bryce Love is not going to be involved or whatever, or Antonio Gibson. Yeah, they're not really doing anything, right? Like you'll know 2-3 weeks in, and you can cut them for another player. Like it's always that feeling, like Adrian Peterson, like when he's on your team, you're like, should I cut him? Like you're always on the fence with him, because he's like, oh yeah, he can produce for my team, but like am I gonna would I rather have this waiver guy? Like I don't know. So that's why I won't be having a lot of Adrian Peterson, but I would rather. What is going on?
Sorry, there's just like a chat in the listener link. I'm not paying attention, and I'm sorry, but you guys will see it afterwards. But I did want to just add something on Bryce Love. ESPN John's Kime believed that Antonio Gibson, or I'm sorry, not Bryce Love, Antonio Gibson could fill the role that Washington had planned for Darius Geis. So this is the idea here that Gibson could be the early down and the pass catcher for them, and could really evolve. So to Johnny's point, I'm actually fading AP. And I get why you would take AP. Maybe if you went 0 RB, you wanted to get somebody at the start of the season to be able to get you early down work, maybe score a couple touchdowns for you. So I understand why you would go AP. But I've been smashing more of Antonio Gibson, even Bryce Love, as Johnny said later, because those guys have the true upside to get you all the way there or be a league winner at the end of it.
When like Antonio Gibson is like, he's a big dude. Like he's 6 foot, like 225.
Yeah, converted wide receiver.
Yeah, and like how much I love my converted wide receivers. A big fan of Naheem Hines, and Naheem Hines was a converted wide receiver. Like David Johnson was a converted wide receiver. You like to see these guys because then they're going to be involved in that. Like they have that in their repertoire, and they're going to be really good at that. And then it's like, oh, and then they're going to get 18 touches because they can run between the A and B gaps.
I just took Jamison Crowder there in the 13th, and I was going back and forth between Brashad Perriman and Jamison Crowder, and I was like, which one do I want? Brashad Perriman, love that upside of a 4.2 something 40, former first-round pick, finished the year last year with Tampa Bay when he was the number one with over 100 yards a game and over four touchdowns in those last 3 games combined. But Jamison Crowder, he's got this rapport already with Sam Darnold, right? And this is a standard league, no PPR included, but I went with Jamison Crowder. And you ever know when you're deciding between two things and you flip a coin, and then immediately after you flip it, you're like, I know which one I wanted to land on. And it's like, oh, that's maybe the guy I should have just picked. I wish I would have taken Brashad Perriman. If I'm going in the 13th round.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no point unless you had done something so risky with your wide receivers before that you shouldn't be swinging for the fences in these later rounds, Whisper Nation. This is just another example of like when you're down here, you need to be going for extreme upside because that's how you get.
Although I will say, if this is a PPR league,
but
I think Crowder because Crowder gets so
Sure,
many
sure, but he's not.
targets.
But even without PPR, I think there's a case to be made for Crowder here because Crowder will be at some point probably in this offense the only thing that gets the chains moving for them. He is going to get a crazy amount of volume. So you could be sitting there with a guy that's like guaranteed 100 yards every week. Because of how bad they're going to be, they're going to have to throw, and he's just going to be that easy outlet every single week. So you get into some buys, you get into some injuries. Crowder could be a really nice stopgap fill. I just feel like I'd rather him be a guy I picked up off waivers if I needed to than a guy.
Here's some information though on Jamison Crowder. We know the PPR animal Jamison Crowder is. Hell, week 1, 17 targets, 14 receptions. Go to the end of the season, week 15, 11 targets. Finishes the season week 17 with 10 targets, right? He gets all of his targets, gets all these catches. How many times do you think he broke 100 yards last year?
Well, that's
like
on
3.
That
He did it as many times as we all did. He didn't break 100 yards once.
Well, and also Darnold,
year.
yeah, but they have Darnold out for a good amount of last year. Had some terrible quarterback play. Yeah,
I think.
If you're going a late round guy, a guy who doesn't.
No, I agree.
A guy who didn't break 100 yards once and had 3, maybe I guess he had some touchdowns. Levy had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 touchdowns.
I like
6
Crowder
touchdowns
actually.
there, so.
I don't mind going Crowder later on in drafts. I do think that there's some upside there because I think that listen, Brashad Perriman, yeah, there's definitely upside there for sure. And if someone grabs Brashad, I think the upside is higher with Brashad. But I do think that there is a reality like Jamison Crowder already has a rapport with Sam Darnold. You're talking about Brashad Perriman having to come in once again, learn a brand new offense, and not to mention their coach is just unreal. So I'm just saying Jamison Crowder is always his entire career. Talk about another guy who's just been underrated his whole career. That's been Crowder. He's been a pretty solid wide receiver. So I'm not saying
poor man's Edelman.
Yeah.
But he doesn't.
All right.
Have
Well,
Tom
we
Brady
did
throwing
it
the ball.
here.
Oh shit, we're done.
Yeah, we're done.
Damn,
That's quick.
I'm kind of sad.
No, it was no mock draft marathon, dude.
Damn, we were so prepared after the marathon. But here we are now, 13 rounds through.
Should we roll through some draft grades? Do the people want the draft grades?
Should we break down our teams that we were thinking? Let Whisper Nation.
I don't want to break down.
Tell
my team
us how we did.
This is unreal.
Yeah.
It went out.
I wouldn't either.
Well, why don't we
Johnny.
just ask Whisper Nation? Why don't you tell us who won out of our teams?
Yeah, because I didn't get.
We know Johnny's completely out. So.
Yeah. But I'm kind of curious. I love to hear Johnny and Travis's take on what you were thinking with your guys. We just kind of sped through some of these ones. If you want to jump over it, cool. But I mean,
no, that's fine. I'll roll through.
I like that.
Yeah, so I took Derrick Henry in the first. He's kind of there at 1.7. I thought about CEH, but I went with Derrick Henry. Look here, what people aren't talking about enough in this offseason, and I didn't get to make this point, so I want to just make it here, is that Deion Lewis is not there anymore in Tennessee. So in the best year that Derrick Henry really had with this offense, Deion Lewis was still there getting a lot of the passing down work. Now we're going to see a year where it's like Derrick Henry is probably going to get more catches than he ever got in his career this year. And I'm really excited about that prospect. And I think he belongs in the middle of that first round because of that upside there. James Conner, look, I knew I wasn't going to get him because obviously Austin had talked about getting him on the turn over there. But I think James Conner, like Austin had alluded to, is getting slept on. And I'm okay taking him at this spot. And there's just been a real theme for me this year, if you're going to be in this middle spot or really anywhere, because of how deep the wide receiver pool is from rounds 3 through 7, really, or 3 through 6. I have been really smashing running back early in leagues, in a lot of leagues. I didn't do it in our listener league because that was a little different, but and then going with a lot of wide receivers in those middle rounds because I feel like the upside is really there for them. So that's exactly what I did. 2 running backs. Then I went Adam Thielen, OBJ, Terry McLaurin, Will Fuller. A lot of upside, a little bit of safety there with Adam Thielen and his volume, but really love the upside of my wide receiving core there. Tevin Coleman and Jordan Howard, guys that are just, not very sexy, but in a standard league could really end up slotting in if I needed them to with injuries. Evan Ingram was just a pure upside play at tight end. I think this is a guy who could finish as a top 3 tight end if he were to stay on the field and stay healthy. Matt Stafford, look, the guy was on pace for QB4 last year. We've talked at length about Matt Stafford's upside in an offense that should throw all over the place. Jalen Reagor, I think in the 11th is a steal here. This is a guy that's probably locked into being their number one, and I continue to see beat writers say great things about Jalen Reagor this offseason. So we're liking what we're seeing there. And then Boston Scott,
including beat writer Johnny Game Time Hicks.
Yeah, exactly. Boston Scott is the backup for Miles Sanders. He's the clear backup here, and then Miles Sanders getting a little dinged up, so that's just a upside play there. And then Blake Jarwin. We've talked about Dallas's offense, but Blake Jarwin seems to be the odd man out when we talk about it. And really, Blake Jarwin's got a path to some good upside, especially if they even improve on offense too, going forward. So really like what I was able to do here. I didn't think I was a big fan of the 7, 6, 7, 8 spots in these drafts, but this one turned out all right.
One thing I do want to mention a couple of things. I do like the Blake Jarwin pick. With Boston Scott, interesting note to maybe consider. I heard this perspective and I thought it was interesting. Boston Scott could be used more evenly initially in the beginning of the season because Miles Sanders' soft tissue issue. So they could ease him back in. And so getting Miles Sanders so late, and especially in like a standard league draft or whatever, like if you looked, I brought up on one of our podcast shows, actually how effective my Boston Scott was compared to Miles Sanders. And we have to also realize like they both got 2 red zone carries down the stretch as well. So Boston Scott, I love picking him up, especially with this news that we got today. I think that he could have, immediate value, and then you can kind of use him as a trade chip, and sell him off after the beginning, and they'll probably turn it back over to Miles Sanders. So I just wanted to reiterate that.
All right, Johnny, why don't you walk us through your team over here?
All right. I also, it was funny. It's almost as if Sleeper is watching our stream because they tweeted out over the last 2 seasons among wide receivers with at least 75 targets. First-year Jets wide receiver Rashad Perriman ranks number 2 in yards per catch at 18.9. Ranks number 5 in yards per target at 10.6. Scored 8 touchdowns on 52 catches, and only dropped 1 pass on 94 targets. So maybe they have their input there. So maybe it is Rashad Perriman is the answer there. All right.
Yeah, this is the one I'm taking to the grave. This is my boy call.
Yeah, that
you guys
is
were
true.
laughing at me when I was taking him in the 4th round of our dynasty rookie draft.
Dude, we told you about him.
Yeah.
Whatever.
All right.
I got the receipts, brother.
So
no, you do. I do have to give that one to Austin because I did laugh at him about Rashad Perriman, and we'll see. I mean, it's the Jets, so I don't want to put the cart before the horse there, but do like the upside.
All right. So with my team,
Johnny,
I went Joe Mixon. I was deciding between Joe Mixon and CEH Miles Sanders. That one I decided to go Joe Mixon in this mock. I've been alternating between the 3 really. And then I took Austin Eckler. I haven't really taken him in a lot of drafts, but I definitely think that there's a tier break after Austin Eckler between Austin Eckler and James Conner. So why not? And I'm getting that. I'm not gonna lie, dude. I'm getting a little bit of that Hard Knocks fever. All right. So what can you do?
Hard Knocks bump.
Yeah. So this is a mock. I just want to see what it looked like, and I actually, Austin Eckler as my RB2 is not bad. All right, so then I went DK Metcalf and DJ Chark. I don't know if I like that DK Metcalf pick right there. I was going between a couple of wide receivers, and I think I would alternate that out if I went with the strategy. But then went DJ
I'm just going to say it one more time so everybody will stop doing this. Quit drafting DK Metcalf ahead of Tyler Lockett. Quit doing it. Thank you.
2.
Oh, okay. Okay, and then
I'm with Travi on this one.
DJ Chark in the 4th. I really like that one. And then Kareem Hunt, and then Deshaun Watson. Like I said, I was trying to get Russell Wilson. Then I was like, I want some kind of double dip there, so went Brandon Cooks, then Christian Kirk, Chase Edmonds, Sterling Shepard. Big Travi talked me into him, and then auto picks with with them not pausing.
Well, you know what?
And then I had to get
Tell
TJ
us- tell us-
Hawkinson because
Give us your take on Darius Geis and Damian Williams this year. Why don't you just let us know?
you know what?
Make a case
The
for
upside
them.
on these players.
You know, and I hope they get drafted to your team this year. Okay, that's what I hope. That's the analysis I have on those guys.
I really liked what you put together, though. I have to be honest. Up until those picks, obviously, I feel we can discredit those or credit you with a pretty good draft. You probably would have taken another tight end, I imagine, instead of those two.
I was
so
gonna
you could
get
pair that up.
Yeah, I was gonna get Jonu.
Right. So I can give you a credit there. I did like what you put together. Austin, talk us through what you did here. Whisper Nation giving you a little bit of flack, saying you lost this one between the three of us because you didn't draft a tight end. Oh, Luca in the chat. Luca, thanks, brother. Appreciate you coming in here. Want to say what's up?
Oh yeah, what's up?
Is
dude?
I'll take an L on that one for not pulling it a tight end, but it is a deep position. So let's not have Whisper Nation forget that any week you can go ahead and swoop up a tight end, likely a quarterback as well.
I'm pretty sure Jared Cook is available, like at this point, because I don't think he got drafted because he was there for me. So there's something like, yeah, exactly. It is, especially
it's
this
there.
year.
We're doing 13 rounds.
Yeah.
And I would go ahead and just draft a kicker and a tight end with those 14th, 15th rounds. I would not start a defense because last year my defense week 1 got me -4. So I'm just going to take that 4-point bump to start and then reevaluate defenses for week 2. So that's my strategy coming in this year. No defense, take the 0.
Really, hold on. Are you 100% sincere when you say you're going to do this?
I'm 100% sincere when I say my defense last year got me -4 points week 1, and it was a good starting defense.
No, I don't want to hear what happened last year. You keep saying don't start a defense week 1 because you're banking 4 points. Are you legit going to do that? I want to know right now because I hope I play you week 1. Yes.
Legit. I'm not aiming to do that. But if my draft broke out where people I'm going to probably be going at the 1. If Matt stays at the 3, which is my ideal spot, if he stays there, I'm leaning number 1 right now. And if enough dudes ended up falling to me where I'm like, look, there's no way I'm going to be drafting these guys until I can at least see 1 week of how they do, given we're not going to get to see a preseason. You know, like for instance, like Deshaun Jackson, he's basically free right now, and this should be the number 1 wide receiver for what could be an MVP candidate in Carson Wentz. And if you have that player right there, that's a league winner for you. So do I want to draft that to potentially get minus points from my defense? The answer is no. So am I looking for it? No. But would I, if my team was so freaking stacked that I just kept grabbing juicy ass sleeper after juicy ass sleeper and we didn't have any preseason to look at it?
AKA JAS.
I would definitely consider that.
I
would definitely consider that.
I would bet that probably one of the worst defenses that you could probably pick up will still score more points than Deshaun Jackson this year. I would probably
maybe, but not in 1 week.
No,
but not in just 1 week.
I would say in 1 week.
I understand.
Well, now you're just getting boastful.
Deshaun Jackson should not have been taken ahead of Jalen Reagor. I will say that. But he's going so late in drafts. Like, he's practically free. He needs to be picked up.
No, don't fall for the trap.
He needs to be picked up.
The trap.
I'm sorry.
Every year
the upside
is
the upside not there, Johnny? Can you literally tell me the upside's not there? You know that the only argument is injury.
154 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Only argument.
154 yards.
No, it's
the
not
only
just
argument
injury, dude.
What is it then?
It's Deshaun Jackson does this to us every year. He gives us. We say this every year. I can replay the tape now of the last 2 years, and we came out saying the same thing. Guys, the upside's there. He's going so late.
Yeah, this is the cheapest he's ever been, Johnny.
No, he was just as cheap last year too.
No, he wasn't. This is
unreal. Unreal.
Once again, the only healthy game Deshaun Jackson had with Carson Wentz, he dropped 154 yards and 2 touchdowns on 9 targets and 8 receptions. So I get he's a boomer
being able to
play.
swing for the fence in these late rounds. I think that's the right call. Now I think. Once again, I would not have taken him ahead of Jalen Reagor. I think he was taken a little earlier. I think you could have gotten him probably where you got Crowder or even where you got Harry. But yeah, on those turns, sometimes you have to reach. So that happens too.
And I'll just say for my filtration system, you gotta choose some players not to take. And for me, I just don't mess with rookie wide receivers. I know that every once in a while, again, we get a guy who breaks 900 yards. Maybe get a guy who breaks 1,000 yards, but I'm pretty sure even still in a new NFL where rookie wide receivers have been more productive than they were in the early 2000s, You're not getting 1,000-yard rookie wide receiver very often. Maybe you get one a season. Maybe. So
Sure.
to try to pick which one that's going to be between Justin Jefferson, Jalen Reagor, Tyler Higbee, Ruggs.
Yeah, but I
who
don't even necessarily need Rager to be a 1,000-yard wide receiver, and I think he's
Sure.
probably going to come in under that. What I think he's going to be is what Deshaun Jackson could be, and that's a big play
Sure.
threat for them. That's kind of grandfathered into a lot of usage.
I could definitely see
Talk-
him. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
I want to
So I'll
talk
break
a little
down
bit
my
of-
team now.
Yeah, go for it.
Sure. So I went the number 1 spot, took Saquon over CMC. I'm feeling really good about that more and more as I look at the numbers and what Saquon was able to do with that high ankle sprain, who plagued him for over half the season last year. You need everything to go. CMC is a phenomenal player and a phenomenal system, but he needs to get the system working with him in all the ways it did to do the insane things he did last year, which it could very well happen again, but different coach, different quarterback, different system coming in. I'm just not totally sold on him being the hands down undisputed number 1 back. So I went with Saquon Barkley, who I think is the most talented running back in the NFL, and Kenny Galladay, Mike Evans stack on the backside with it. I think those two guys have the best shot at entering into that elite category with the receivers above him. Julio Jones, Tyreek Hill, Michael Thomas, Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins. Those guys are a tier below, but I think that those two, if you're saying which two guys were not in the top 5 that were most likely ending up in the top 5, these are my guys I like right there. Just a couple of running back stacks there in Devin Singletary and Ronald Jones in the 4th and the 5th. Devontae Parker, upside play at wide receiver. Couple more running backs who are going to be getting work, and their roles are still undetermined in their
Austin,
teams. With Philip Lindsay and Matt Breida.
Can I ask you in the Devin Singletary
Ask me
pick, because
Yeah.
Mark Ingram and David Montgomery were sitting there. Any thought on those two ahead of Devin Singletary there at 412? Oh, they weren't there. I'm sorry. It was the other turn. My bad. You're good. Keep going.
Well, actually, no. Oh, yeah. No, they
Yeah,
weren't there. I would have
I thought
really
it-
rather
yeah.
had Mark Ingram or David Montgomery.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, that makes sense though. Cool, perfect.
I
Sorry.
went ahead and I thought about doing the thing I like doing of stacking up DeAndre Swift, or excuse me, Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack right there and locking up that backfield over there in Indianapolis behind that stellar line. But I went ahead and grabbed who I think are going to be 2 starting running backs on their squads with Ronald Jones and Devin Singletary. I thought about grabbing Zach Moss later on. He went a little bit earlier for my taste, which I'm glad to see right now as I'm mocking for real, if you will. So I don't think I would take Devin Singletary in a real situation right here, but I wanted to try it on and see where Zach Moss fell because I love grabbing those two together. I think one is going to be the lead dog. I don't think it's going to split out. End of the season in December in Buffalo. Who's going to be leading the show?
Zach
It's a
Moss.
coin toss. I'd love to have them both, though. So that was a thought between those two. I think Ronald Jones is really getting slept on. We could be talking about the starting running back, a 1 through 3 down running back playing for Bruce Arians and Tom Brady. If it just works out, it's a defensive-led team. They could be trying to run the clock out on a lot of leads. And Ronald Jones, as of right now, is their guy. So I'm not sad about him in the 5th at all. Devontae Parker there in the 6th, and Philip Lindsay and Matt Breida, 2 running backs. Matt Breida with more upside than Lindsay, but I'm just thinking that Lindsay could have a shot at being in a 50-50 split on a run-heavy team over there. And I'll take that. But based on our breakdowns and where Lindsay is, turned a lot more on to Melvin Gordon after this draft. That's been a very educational one, fellas. Mike Williams in the 9th. Love that pick. This is a guy who I think is going to have a shot at contending for that number 1 role, given how Tyrod Taylor likes to throw the ball versus the quarterback of old and Phillip Rivers. So I love getting Mike Williams where I'm getting him there. Deshaun Jackson, we talked enough about him. N'Keal Harry, first wide receiver off the board last year in his rookie season, now playing with Cam Newton in a different New England Patriots team. I like the prospect of what he could be bringing to the table. And then the aforementioned Cam Newton and Jamison Crowder then to round out my draft. So I'm feeling okay about this one. I learned a lot of lessons here on it. Upside's all right. It's okay. No tight end. Forget it.
I think it was okay. It was a nice split down the way, and then you ended up with a guy. You're looking at one of these late round quarterbacks, and I think Cam Newton's probably one of my favorites as far as like even more so than Matt Stafford, as far as one of those guys that could be the QB1 overall. And that's because of the rushing ability and because of the rushing touchdown upside. You don't see a guy like Pat Mahomes was a couple years ago or Lamar Jackson even last year sitting there with so much rushing upside. The only guy that even comes kind of close to sniffing that in my mind would be Tua, and you just don't know when he's going to start, so you really don't know when that's going to happen. Plus, he's got the health issue, so you don't really know when that's going to happen. Cam Newton is that guy this year, sitting there in the 11th, 12th, 13th with the rushing upside. The only problem is the injury history. Screw it. We're playing football here. Like, invest in him, especially in the 12th. Like, you got an opportunity here to really bring your league home. I like what you did here, minus the tight end situation, obviously, but we're playing with 2 less rounds, so you could have easily picked him up after that. We have no idea what could have happened there. All right, so let's work through these draft grades. By the way, the comments said that I won, so we'll just go from there.
Yeah, of course.
Well, I have a bunch of burner accounts in here, so that's
Yeah,
why.
I know.
Johnny, let's start us off with Jacob Bley. Why don't you work through his team, give us your grade, and we'll kind of see how we're feeling after that.
We went Christian McCaffrey, Travis Kelce, then Chris Carson, Calvin Ridley, then Juju Smith-Schuster in the 5th. That's a nice value there. And then AJ Green in the 6th. Who I was coming around a lot more on until
I know, right? And then it's like the first practice report. Oh, I got a hammy. Oh,
right?
okay.
Yeah. And then gets these double tight ends and Darren Waller to pair with the Travis Kelce, which is interesting. That's really interesting. And then Alexander Madison, then Latavius Murray, Tony Pollard, Matt Ryan, Alan Lazard, Rashad Perriman in the 13th.
And our guy Jacob Bley, dude, with the hard hitting handcuff, like of other people's handcuffs here.
Yeah,
the Madison, Latavius Murray, Tony Pollard. Those are those best. Like the grade A. If you were giving him like grades, the grade A handcuffs in the league, and he snagged them all. Much to the chagrin of those Ezekiel Elliott, Dalvin Cook owners over there.
Oh, look at this. Purple.
Latavius Murray's getting slept on a lot, I think, too. He's going to have a little bit of a role anyways, and then we saw what he was able to do when Kamara was out.
He'll have value. Look at this. I knew it. Purple Waves. Travie pays me to stroke his ego every stream. I knew it, dude. This guy over here, he's just like one of those politicians, you know, always accusing me of, oh, look at this, your video, your coin flip is rigged. Oh, your ping pong balls are rigged. And look at this guy. He's the one out here paying
misdirection. Johnny, it's called misdirection. Look over this way, and then boom, hit you with the left.
No,
you know
unbelievable. Getting back to Christian, the only pause I have is like I don't mind the strategy of the double tight end. If I just don't like it with Darren Waller. I think Darren Waller is going to lose a lot of targets with all the new incoming, people that wide receivers and running backs that they have.
I mean, it's a case to say like, wouldn't you only want the double tight end situation if you took like one of the top 4?
I
like
think
you want Darren Waller over Michael Gallup.
Well,
yeah. Do you want Darren Waller?
Hold on. I would say I would do the double dip if you were pretty certain on the, or if you want to take a dart throw on like one of the late round guys, then it's fine because you can drop them if it doesn't work out, and if it does, then you got 2 nice tight ends. I wouldn't do it the middle round tight ends, and I would say that because generally and statistically, the middle round tight ends don't usually pan out. Those are the ones that, unfortunately, end up busting the majority of the time. And so that's why I just wouldn't do it with like Darren Waller, Rob Gronkowski. I think Travis is right. Like, you do it with one of the elites, and then I would take a dart throw on one of these like way later round guys.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But I think other than that, like I think he put together a pretty good squad, even with that. Like,
I love that combo of CMC and Chris Carson. Like, that is
it's nice, but he will be in trouble in the instance that one of those guys goes down, and he's going to be sitting there with guys that really don't have roles unless
they do.
Well, you're right.
You show up.
Like what you're saying is you're banking on Chris Carson getting hurt and somebody else getting hurt at the same time, which could happen. It's a little
would
wild.
be ironic.
What's your grade here, Johnny?
I'll give him a B plus.
Yeah, I was gonna go with a B minus here. I think the tight end situation, he could have given himself some more running back depth here. I honestly would have even liked Kerryon Johnson a little bit better than the Darren Waller situation. Kerryon should have a role at least to start the season. That could have given him some depth at the running back position. So I think he takes a little bit of a knock there just for me on that one.
points.
All
And the
right,
last thing I'd like to say about the stack on the rookie handcuffs, or excuse me, just the handcuff running backs there. I was doing some mocks, or I was doing some similar things to what Bley did here. My only critique on the specific running backs he grabbed, Alexander Madison, Latavius Murray, and Tony Pollard, we all know exactly what their roles are. And we know what is going to happen for them to take a major leap for your team. As where with a running back like, say, and I don't know where they went, but like, say, an A.J. Dillon or a Zach Moss. These are guys who they could actually be running the show at the end of the season. They don't even need the guy ahead of them to get hurt, like a Tony Pollard or a Madison, who's going to need something to happen.
Right, exactly. I think something could happen where you're sitting there going, okay, like they take over because of the talent. Where that's never going to happen with Madison, Latavius, or Tony Pollard with their backs ahead of them. That's not going to happen if they're healthy. Yeah.
But with A.J. Dillon or Zach Moss, they could be running the team.
But I will
this
say,
summer.
with as much as Ezekiel Elliott parties, dude, Tony Pollard could be a guy.
Yeah, but once again,
that needs to happen.
You're banking on that having to happen.
I mean, but if there's a guy to bank on, beating the beat back, it's gonna be Ezekiel Elliott. Am I right?
As much as
I got
party,
COVID though,
Johnny, you can't guarantee that you're not just my handcuff here. So
wow, dude, unreal. Okay, all right, next team. Affect the head. Matt Poppin.
I'll hit him right here.
Oh, Austin, Austin, hit him with the
fire.
All right, let's see. So he takes Ezekiel Elliott at 3. Nice choice. No surprise there. Patty Mahomes in the second. Falling down a little bit. Not bad. Leonard Fournette. We know the upside there. Even with Chris Thompson coming in there, Leonard Fournette. The team didn't want him, but then they still kept him there. They might not re-sign him next year, but he's a Jaguar this year. We know that for sure. No problems with taking anybody who takes Leonard Fournette in the third. T.Y. Hilton's been looking to build good rapport with Phillip Rivers. Early reports are sounding good over there. Cooper Kupp. We got some hesitations just because of the shakeup with the team over there, but I honestly think Cooper Kupp and Jared Goff's rapport is pretty strong. I'm not going to say he's going to repeat, but I don't have any problems with Cooper Kupp either. No, again, not a very sexy pick, just because you got Robert Woods, you've got all the new Higbee over there. And
did you hear on Hard Knocks? It wasn't a big tidbit, but I'm surprised it wasn't like made more aware. Did anyone catch what they when they were running their offense, what they were saying, what they were running? No?
Can you just say it?
Oh, wow, dude. I was creating a dramatic pause there.
Yeah, that was way too dramatic. I almost fell asleep.
Oh, wow, unreal. Well, they were in 12 personnel, and he had said, "Hey, run it. We're going full, or we're going 2-minute drill. Repeat with the 12 personnel." Which says to me that they want to continue what they were doing at the end of last season, which makes me even lower on Cooper Kupp. But there is that touchdown chemistry upside for sure, yeah. But Robert Woods is the guy.
There could be a situation where that's the case. I would just argue this: if there ends up being there may end up being a situation where the Rams end up having to throw more into the wide receiver sets that they had to do. When they're not doing too well in offense. Now they did well with the 12 personnel last year, but what's to say we get teams that are able to stop the run against them and they're not able to consistently have the success. They may have to go back to 3 wide receiver sets and pass into that. So that's the only case there. All right, so carry on there, Austin.
6, Rob Gronkowski off the board, tight end. Kerryon Johnson, Darrell Henderson Jr., and Sony Michel. 3 running backs there, 7, 8, and 9. He takes a pair of wide receivers at Sammy Watkins and Henry Ruggs the third. Lamar Miller in the 12th and Carlos Hyde there in the 13th. I love the first 4 picks over here. I think they're really solid. Set you up well. I think Gronkowski's a fun pick. Even at the 6, it's a little bit early. We keep seeing him climb up a little bit, but it's hard not to be excited about that in a mock draft. We know what it is. We know it's the reunited relationship there with Gronkowski and Brady. They brought him over. It's at least fun to look at. Then Kerryon Johnson, like we said before, he's going to have a role, at least in the beginning. He could have a role in the end. So his third running back, it's pretty nice. T.Y. Hilton, Cooper Kupp, 2 wide receivers, it's pretty nice. Patrick Mahomes, arguably the best quarterback in the game fantasy-wise there. You're feeling good about that. It's a really nice top-heavy team. Not a big fan of the depth. I think that a lot of this could just end up being like nothing. With
Yeah.
Darrell Henderson Jr. Could be, but Cam Akers is there and Malcolm Brown is too. Sammy Watkins, we could
Sony
get Johnny
Michel's
started
on
on
the
that, but we
pup.
won't.
Yeah, like this
Sony
team
Michel's
is,
on the pup.
this team is hideous. Like it started off. This is like this is like a team like you
Team is
start
not
off with like
hideous.
it's like no, it's like this team.
You sound like you
that's
got a personal vendetta against this person. You
like,
wouldn't happen to have one of those.
like
would
the
you?
first
I think
first
he
three.
does.
Hey, if you showed me the first 3 rounds, I was like, I'm real interested. And then you show me the fourth, I'm like, all right, I'm still pretty interested. Like T.Y. Hilton as my wide receiver 1. Oh, I can do it. Okay. And then it's just like you start revealing and one after the other, and then it's just like, this is horrible. What are we doing here? I think that this is.
I don't know what we were doing by not giving Johnny this breakdown on this team.
I
don't know what we were doing. That was
like,
What's your grade, Austin? I want to get Austin's grade here.
I'm gonna go and give Potvin here. Quarterback situations A, running back situations A minus, wide receiver situations starting wise at least B plus. Tight end, I'm gonna say B with that upside. I think this is a solid B plus.
Yeah,
I love
the
that
weird
top
thing
heavy
is
one, but just the depth
I
behind
want
it
to
just
hate
really
it,
falls out.
right? I do want to
Yeah.
hate it, but there is an argument to be made here, like, because I don't love Leonard Fournette, and I love Cooper Kupp as the player, but I don't love his outlook this season. I love T.Y. Hilton, the player. I'm not so sure I'm sold on the outlook this season, but this team's ceiling is pretty nasty. Like if Leonard Fournette, T.Y. Hilton, Cooper Kupp do what they've been able to do, like when they're hitting all cylinders, like this team could really hit. I do think the floor is a little bit lower, so I'd go B minus, but it's close.
Yeah, and if my aunt had a beard, she'd be my uncle, dude. Unreal.
No,
like
maybe she just be the bearded lady, dude.
no, dude.
Women
this
can't.
is,
Well, you got a problem with women in facial hair?
Hey, this is unreal. Like, oh, this is gross. What'd you give him?
Some regions of the world just have people with more facial.
What grade did you give him?
B.
It'd be
Oh,
yeah.
gosh, I would give him a C plus.
I'd say B minus. So I think we're kind of all in the similar area. All right, so next up is Hanimal. Our boy Chris Hannon. He is a fellow 3-time champ of our league of record, which
Oh,
these settings are.
Basically drafted the
set up
Baltimore
here.
Ravens here.
So he took Alvin Kamara. Not a surprise here. This is a guy he's owned or had on his team about 4 different times. Alvin Kamara, then Lamar Jackson, followed by Chris Godwin. I mean, he pretty much Mark Ingram, Mark Andrews. He's rostered a lot of these players before in the past. Marlon Mack in the 6th. Michael
He is
Gallup,
literally
Emmanuel
drafting
Sanders.
his former
Yeah,
teams.
his saved old teams. Adrian Peterson, John Brown, A.J. Dillon, Keyshawn Vaughn, Mike Gesicki. I mean, I think this is a pretty well-rounded team. He was able to get Lamar and Mark Andrews. I love that stack. Got Mark Ingram here, so I think his running backs are pretty okay. He did take Marlon Mack here, which, look, I love the Jonathan Taylor hype. I'm actually finally starting to turn around a little bit on that hype. I almost took him in the 5th. But Marlon Mack will start the year and has constantly gotten better every year in his career. Like, that's what people don't recognize about Marlon Mack. Like, he's been a great 4th-round pick for the Colts. Love the Michael Gallup pick. But other than that, like the Sanders pick, I would like to believe my Emmanuel Sanders is going to be good. But
Other than his starting lineup there, his team is good, is what you're saying.
No, I think his starting lineup is good.
Yeah, I know.
I think his starting lineup's good. But the bench is where it kind of gets off a little bit for me. I would give this team, though, I think it's probably the best team we've looked at so far as balance. So I would probably give this a B plus.
I'm giving this an A minus. I think that this is a very.
You're just a damn contrarian, Johnny.
No,
You know
that's not true. That is not true. I'm just saying that the balance is very, very nice. I think actually the depth is pretty nice. I mean, A.J. Dillon to me has the upside of 10 touchdowns. Mike Gesicki, I mean, as a second tight end for him. Mark Andrews has just been. There's been a lot of good positive reviews coming out. You're just not a fan of John Brown. I think John Brown's fine. I like this team. I think it's an A-.
It's not that I'm not a fan of John Brown, but like I don't think that John Brown and Stephon Diggs can both coexist as in that offense. I
Yeah,
don't
it's
think it's
gonna
set
be
up to
John
make them both.
Brown. You're right.
Sure, maybe,
I'm
but
just kidding.
once
That
again, like if Diggs is on the field, like they're gonna eat
yes.
into each other.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
So
Was
it's not that I don't like John Brown. It's like I just think, and then Emmanuel. I think it's fine. Like don't get me wrong. Once again, I think it's the best team we've looked at so
Yeah.
far out of the teams we're grading.
All right.
So Rock Lee's up next. Rock Lee, big shout out to Rock Lee. He's been an avid supporter of the show. We appreciate you, brother. You're in the listener league. We're gonna go through your team here. So we've got Dalvin Cook, then Julio Jones. He did a Melvin Gordon, Raheem Mostert 3rd and 4th round picks. Then he did a string of wide receivers here. Other than the Deebo Samuel pick, I really love what he did here.
Yeah.
Robert Woods, Marquise Brown, Deebo Samuel, but then Deontay Johnson. Really loved the recovery. Julio as that anchor, and then all 4 of these wide receivers is like some outside plays. Really a fan of that. Zach Moss, you're a man after my own heart if you're drafting Zach Moss. Tyler Higbee, not my favorite tight end prospect this year, but there is a case to be made that in 12 personnel, Tyler Higbee could feast as the Cooper Kupp replacement, so to speak, in this offense. Carson Wentz, then Tom Brady. So I like what you did here. You went upside, and then you went with, kind of like that floor in Carson Wentz. So I appreciate that. Justin Jackson's a great 13th round pick as a guy who could be the touchdown guy over there or the goal line guy over there for the Chargers. So really like this team, honestly. I didn't know if I was going to, but I really like what you were able to do here. I think you've got good depth at running back, and you've got good depth at wide receiver. You got a couple upside plays. So if there's any team or any spot on a lineup you want to be weak, it is tight end. And that's where I think you are weak, but not by much. And so I'll give you an A here. I like this team.
And like
Give on the shout out on the tight ends ones. We're talking about tight ends being weak with it. If we look at Tyler Higbee's stats, I know he's exciting, but also kind of not exciting. But if we take a little closer look at his production last year, started off really slow. Target wise, we're looking at 5, 3, 7, 3, 3, 1, 1. More notably, the snap percentage he was on the field 52, 34, 45, 56. Nothing you're getting super stoked about. But we jump to the second half of the season there. Let's go ahead and jump into week 13. When their offense started shifting around, Cooks went down, and they started playing a little different. And we saw Tyler Higbee start to turn into something special. In week 13 on, his snap percentage went from around 50, 55%, 91%, 97%, 86%, 89%, 96%. And then get a load of these targets. 8 targets, 11 targets, 14 targets, 11 targets, 12 targets, and the yards to follow: 107 yards, 116 yards, 111 yards, 104 yards, 84 yards, with a couple of touchdowns during that stretch. I mean, how many guys have I said on this recording already that they had, 1 or 2 100-yard games total? This dude finished out the season with 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 5 weeks, 100 or more yards, and 4 out of the 5 weeks, double-digit targets or more. And it wasn't like 10, 10, 10, like 14, 12, 11, 11. Like this dude, and like
he was great down the stretch.
I believe he was like Darren Waller category.
Well, yeah, it is a little bit for me, only because it gets tough there because he was tight end 6 down the stretch. You're right, but when it really started to turn, you talk about week 13. Gerald Everett was not on the field at that time, so Gerald Everett did not exist there. So if we're working the 2 tight end set, you're talking about a really physical, really athletic guy in Gerald Everett coming back onto the field. So I think there's a concern there. But other than that, I do like Higbee. I would actually take him. I like what you said there, comparing him to Darren Waller. I would wait on punt Waller, and go with a guy like Higbee. But I would ensure that I picked another tight end up later to kind of hedge my bet with Higbee. I just think Higbee, trying to rely on him as my only tight end, is a little bit scary this year. But I love what Rock Lee did here.
Falls to you. If he falls to you, you get him. You're excited, and maybe you get a safer play later on. But don't reach for him. But if he falls to you, celebrate.
Don't reach for your guy.
Reach for your guy.
All right. So, Austin, I think we got you up here on Tyler 17X.
Tyler 17X in the 6th spot takes Josh Jacobs out of the Las Vegas Raiders backfield. DeAndre Hopkins in the 2nd. George Kittle there in the third. David Montgomery and Jonathan Taylor in the fourth, fifth. Couple of receivers then to follow with Keenan Allen, Jarvis Landry. Josh Allen's going to be his starting quarterback. Antonio Gibson out of Washington, he takes in the ninth. Anthony Miller, Preston Williams, Darrionton Evans, and closes it out with Jonnu Smith. I love this 1-2-3 there with Josh Jacobs, DeAndre Hopkins, George Kittle. I mean, well, I like how it stacks up there, but I personally, and I have Josh Jacobs in Dynasty, love that. To take him over a CEH or Miles Sanders, for me, I get it. It's just not my personal preference right here. I like the upside on the CEH or a Miles Sanders more than I do of a Josh Jacobs. But hey, if Josh Jacobs is going to get 50 catches this year, he's really going to be doing some crazy stuff. I'm just not sold that he's got a committed enough role in that offense.
I don't see how it happens. They drafted these two rookies. They've got Darren Waller there taken away from his pass catching. Jalen Richard got re-signed. How does Josh Jacobs really get all these catches that we think he's capable of getting? Right? Like, how does it happen? And so I'm with you there, Austin. I just kind of pass on him more often than I've been drafting him there in that first round.
But if he does, I mean, he's great
for sure.
And then if he gets 50 catches, it's like, knocking on elite door. But you had CEH there, you had Miles Sanders there, you had a couple of other dudes that I think the upside surpasses. They're rolling the team, all the other stuff. But still, no problem there with Josh Jacobs, DeAndre Hopkins, George Kittle. Really exciting there. And David Montgomery, Jonathan Taylor. I like the upside of both those plays. I like the volume of David Montgomery and Jonathan Taylor. If he is the starting running back behind what could be the best line in football, you're feeling really good.
Is the perfect spot for Jonathan Taylor. I was really tempted to take Jonathan Taylor right here. Had he had fallen, I ended up getting Terry McLaurin. But I think this is right here, the 5th round, where you can get a couple other running backs. If he's your third running back, you're feeling really good about Jonathan Taylor's investment here. I just had to shout that out a little bit because I've been struggling with all the hype that's been happening now as we've had camp going. You're like, okay, is Jonathan Taylor really going to be the man? And so that I really like where he's going right here.
And a point that I had brought up on the Listener League draft on Monday was a note that I pulled out from my 2016 end of season notes. And that was, hey, 4th, 5th, 6th round. Feel comfortable, get excited about drafting the lead back in a committee. I'm usually hesitant on those. I want to know what role they have and what I can expect. But the reason why Jonathan Taylor is going so late is because you don't know if Marlon Mack is really going to be feasting or not. And if we knew, say, Roto World blurb came out or whatever your favorite news source is that said, Jonathan Taylor is the starting running back in Indianapolis. Marlon Mack is going to be supplementing the work Jonathan Taylor is going to be putting on the field, but we're excited to give him the keys to the engine and let it go. Jonathan Taylor then goes from a 5th round pick to, you might be seeing some people taking him in the 2nd. And I think you could justify that too. So if he is that starting running back, which could be just a news blurb away from being the reality we're in, then it's like, my goodness. So getting him there in the 5th before that kind of news drops, then obviously it might not, and he's going to be a 50-50 or even less running back. But that's the risk you're taking with him right there. The upside's there. And yeah, so I think if we're evaluating this team here, I like the running back situation, especially considering Jonathan Taylor is his 3rd behind Jacobs and Montgomery. Solid volume. You don't got to worry about that. Love the upside plays that he's got with wide receivers there. And DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen, Jarvis Landry. We obviously know Keenan Allen's going to have a new quarterback. We don't know if he's going to have the same kind of go-to role that he had with Phillip Rivers. I'm certainly hoping not if I'm taking Big Mike Williams, but we'll see. It's still Keenan Allen. The man is still a beast route runner, no doubt. Can't take that away from him in any way, shape, or form. Jarvis Landry is no slouches either. Don't sleep on him. Josh Allen, I like a lot of things. I just don't like the system. I don't think he's going to be throwing the ball enough to be justifying where we see him really going. I think people who take him early are going to be a little disappointed. I think he's going to do just fine, and I think as a Bills fan, you're going to like it. As a fantasy player, though, I'm worried about the volume. And we're moving on. Antonio Gibson, like the dice roll on that one. Anthony Miller and Preston Williams, 2 really good number 2s. And then Darrionton Evans. It's going to fill that Dion Lewis role in a really, really good handcuff for Derrick Henry. I kind of would have liked to see him take Derrick Henry instead of Josh Jacobs, and then had Darrionton Evans there and really bring it home. But this team has got really good starting running backs, really good starting wide receivers. some depth, elite tight end. It's hard not to rank this team high. I don't
seems
like
pretty
that
good.
quarterback position. Yeah, but it doesn't really. You could go ahead and get a quarterback off of the waiver wire, like we mentioned with tight end. So I'm not really concerned about getting Josh Allen. It's not like he reached too high for him or anything either. So I think this is actually a pretty solid ass squad. I'm gonna give it a B
Yeah.
plus.
Yeah, with you, I'd even go A- here. I think it's really good.
Yeah.
I like what you said there. You came back on the Josh Allen take because he did get him in the 8th, a little bit in the mid-8th there. So I like that. Josh Allen 7 rushing touchdowns last year. I understand why the industry wants to be high on Josh Allen, but they did go get a bruising back in Zach Moss. So, but here's the thing I love about Tyler's team. Just real quick, Keenan Allen, Jarvis Landry, kind of meh picks in the 6th, 7th round, but then he gets Anthony Miller and Preston Williams, 2 nice upside plays in the 10th and the 11th here. So really like what he was able to do, like you talked about with the depth. So yeah, I think that's a solid grade there. Johnny, we've got defending 8 maybe champ. I'm not sure. It might have cut off. Why don't you go through his team here and let us know your grade?
So he took Michael Thomas, then Tyreek Hill, so he went back-to-back wide receiver. Kind of a little unorthodox, but it took value, which is great.
Very nice too.
Then he grabbed Le'Veon Bell and Todd Gurley in the 3rd and the 4th, 2 older running backs. That might be a little bit of a concern there. Grabbed Zach Ertz in the 5th. That's good value. Dak Prescott in the 6th to end that quarterback run there. That was pretty good. Tyler Boyd, then Justin Jefferson. Grabbed Tyreek Cohen, sorry. Jerry Jeudy, Golden Tate. We talked about how we don't like that as a pick just because the upside isn't really there. Grab Drew Brees as well because Dak Prescott wasn't convincing enough as your starting quarterback. And then Austin Hooper as the second tight end. I mean, I really like the wide receivers, and Dak is a really good quarterback. But other than that, I'm really concerned with this team. I mean, there's a very real possibility like this team is dead last at the end of the year, because those running backs could both be, not playing. But based on where we're standing now, the confidence I would feel and I would grade this team would be a B-.
Yeah, you said it could be last. It definitely does have that floor with the running back situation, but man, it's kind of stacked at the other position. So like if you're gonna say I'm
banking
gonna
on
be
health.
yeah, if you're gonna be weak at running back, like that's fine
you're
here if you're
really,
gonna stack the
He's
you're
really
but
weak at running back.
yeah, he's super
Can
weak.
you say
I
he's
agree.
really well, but with Todd Gurley and Le'Veon Bell, like I understand
They're
that health is a
definitely
concern, but these are the locked-in starters for their
would have liked
teams.
to
Like,
see would like to see more running back depth, and maybe he's able to do that through the waiver wire. But dude, Dak
Yeah.
Prescott in the 6th, Zach Ertz in the 5th, paired with Michael Thomas and Tyreek Hill, and then you got Tyler Boyd and Justin Jefferson. Both are safe floor plays to pair with those high upside guys that he got. I actually think he came away doing okay with the running back core that as weak as it is. You said you didn't like this so much, but then you ended up giving it a B-, and I think B plus is kind of where it belongs. So I don't think you were too far off on the grade there either, Johnny. I think you kind of saw it towards the end there.
if his running backs fall off, like if Le'Veon Bell and Todd Gurley get hurt, yeah, he's screwed.
Oh, I'm just concerned about
But
Le'Veon Bell's, usage.
if Le'Veon Bell's healthy, you're starting him every week and you're not feeling bad about it.
Oh yeah, Le'Veon Bell is going to get 300 touches. It's the volume. It's like what kind of touches are they going to be? They're talking about using Frank Gore, but not in the sense that you would think. They're talking about using Frank Gore in order to continue to be able to use Le'Veon Bell the way they want to. So, all right. So I am up here with our guy FF Fortune, a repeat customer as always to Whisper Nation. FF Fortune, we appreciate you, brother. Thanks for jumping in last minute to this mock draft marathon or mock draft Wednesday, so to speak. You were at the 110 position, took CEH. He fell all the way to 110 here. It seems wild to say, is just a couple weeks ago he was going in the 2nd, 3rd round. Kenyon Drake, I thought this is a great stack here. David Johnson, you're playing to Johnny's heart here with Kenyon Drake and David Johnson. Allen Robinson, Stephon Diggs, Kyler Murray, once again a Johnny play there. Julian Edelman, Marvin Jones, Darius Slayton, followed by Hunter Henry, who I think is getting slept on in the tight end community for sure. Brandon Ayuk, LaShawn McCoy, and Bryce Love. I mean, not a surprise here that he put together a pretty solid team. I will say I'm not in love with the wide receivers, but I do like what he was able to do for the depth of these wide receivers. I think Ayuk is a nice guy to be picking up a lot of shares of with all the
Yeah, that's
injuries
who I was
within
going to pick with the Geis pick. I swear, that's where I was gonna go.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
sure.
Yeah,
Sure, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
just saying. I'm just letting them know.
I thought Allen Robinson was a solid wide receiver one after stacking so many running backs, but I'm not sold on Stephon Diggs this year. He's changing. He's going to a new team. You're talking about a Josh Allen who is not going to be a consistent down the field thrower. He throws it down the field, a lot, but he's not going to be a consistent. Yeah, not consistently. Kyler Murray, though, I love that pick there in the 6. You were able to get 3 running backs and 2 wide receivers before you took Kyler Murray. I think that's a really nice setup. And then you did some things here with Julian Edelman to kind of be the safe play after the Stephon Diggs play, and then Marvin Jones and Darius Slayton for some upside. So really like what he put together here. I'm going to give it a solid B. I think I'm not as sold on David Johnson as maybe my partner Johnny is here, but I like that he's your third running back here. I'll take that every day if that's the situation we're going with. So really liked what you were able to put together here, FF Fortune. No surprise there.
This one's the best one for me. This is an A- as far as I'm concerned, because CEH, Drake, David Johnson, these are 3 upside potential 1 through 3 down backs on good offenses. Stephon Diggs, I hear the question marks on him, but the upside based on the way he plays is real. John Brown did just fine, and I believe Stephon Diggs is a better football player than John Brown is. Allen Robinson holding it down. I think that guy's going to get monster volume this year. Kyler Murray on the upside play there is real nice depth at wide receiver. Julian Edelman, Marvin Jones Jr., Darius Slayton. And then there's just like no wasted picks here with a lot of upside.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I don't know if I'm in love with all the picks that
I'm in
maybe some
love
other
with the
people are.
picks. All right,
All right.
Alex P. Eaton. He is up.
Austin, I believe you're up, right?
That was John. I'll take it over. So at the 11th spot, we took Miles Sanders, who we've spoken a lot about, not hating that in any way, shape, or form. Devontae Adams, wide receiver for Green Bay. Can't go wrong there either. A.J. Brown in the 3rd, DJ Moore in the 4th, and Cortland Sutton there in the 5th. 4 really nice receivers there. Too bad you can only start 3. Cam Akers there in the 6th. J.K. Dobbins in the 7th. CeeDee Lamb, Hayden Hurst, Damian Harris in the 10th. DeAndre Washington, followed by Aaron Rodgers in the 12th, and Lynn Bowden Jr. out of Las Vegas there in the 13th. I don't hate any one of these.
Can I ask you
why?
Why is it that you brought up the when you said the 4th wide receiver? Because those are very nice wide receivers. You said you named 4, and you said, "Oh, too bad you can't. You can only start 3." Yet you have in multiple drafts drafted 5 straight running backs or 5 out of 6 rounds when you only could start 2 or 3. So you can have the same argument. I don't think either way that you go, I mean that you can say benefits to it or disadvantages. I just found it interesting that you say that.
Great. I with the running backs, I mean I could talk about that all day long with it. In our league of record or in our listener league, I took 4 running backs because we can start 4 running backs over there. So here, I think it's just really good. I mean, when you don't have another solid running back and they go so quickly, that's the only one here that gives me pause on that.
I mean, I guess the argument there, Johnny, is like the attrition at the running back position is more real than at the wide receiver position. Like, the turnover at the running back position, the career length at the running back position, all these things point to it being a more dangerous position. So drafting more running backs is obviously when the premium is so
running
much
backs are
higher.
more valuable.
Yeah, I mean that's
No,
the
running backs are more valuable than wide receivers. I would rather have more valuable people at that position. So I think I would rather have 4 good running backs, especially in a standard non-PPR, than 4 wide receivers. Because we've all tried to make deals, and unless your wide receiver is a name, is a force, and has production behind him, you're not going to be able to get the value trading him that you're hoping you are. Versus a running back, if it's either a name or a position, people are going to be starving for running backs because it's so hard to come by. So why do I draft more running backs? Because it's the most valuable position in
My-
fantasy football in a non-PPR format.
My point.
So
my point was not.
that's why.
My point was not why do you do what you do. My point was why do you say the fact that if someone drafts 4 wide receivers, you pointed out, oh, too bad you can only start 3. When if you do the same thing with running backs, and someone says that,
Because I can
you
still
bring up
trade the
that.
running.
I mean, you can
The
still.
running back
I
is still
mean,
going to hold
you're
value.
going to be able to trade Devontae Adams. You're going to be able to trade AJ Brown. You're going to be able to trade DJ Moore. You're going to be able to trade Cortland Sutton.
Right,
Those are
but for
guys
what?
you're going to be able to trade. You
But
could
for
trade.
what?
Are you kidding me?
Like if
Devontae
I have
Adams.
Devin Singletary and somebody's offering me DJ Moore for Devin Singletary and they're both doing what you're expecting, I'd be like, no, running back's a more valuable position. No, thank you. I'm going to keep the position of value. There's fewer productive running backs than there are productive wide receivers. So sitting on those
Here's
running
what I'm
backs to me
saying is,
makes
like,
perfect sense.
But I like DJ Moore, who he got later on in the 4th round. No. You got Devin Singletary in the late 4th round. But I'm saying, like, you're saying, oh, if they're both doing what they're supposed to be doing, then that's not what happens. And like, if I'll tell you right now, if DJ Moore is doing what I think and what a lot of fantasy people think you're doing, and then Devin Singletary is doing what Travis thinks that Devin Singletary is going to do, you would be like begging to take that offer. Because DJ Moore
if Devin
has
Singletary underperforms and DJ Moore overperforms, you're gonna like jump on the dude who's overperforming.
Right, exactly.
Like,
so
for
my point is like I just think it's ironic and funny that people will make these funny gestures or funny jabs at people, and when it's not, like, they'll do the exact opposite, but it's not said the same way. And I was just wondering why you would say that.
Once again, it is based, though. That whole argument is based. The reason Austin can say it like that with some backing behind it is because of the fact that running back is more valuable. There's more of a paramount on the running back position. So yeah, you can only start. It's true, you can only start 3 of either position in this league. But the value you have at running back, being able to start them, and let's not forget, like, if any of these guys becomes a true bell cow, like slamming stuff over here, if any of these guys becomes a true bell cow, that becomes way more valuable than a guy like Cortland Sutton in an offense. If Devin like something happened to Zach Moss and they were giving Devin Singletary 25 touches a game, that's more valuable.
You could also say the
in a
same
standard
for
league.
the wide receiver, though. You could say if DJ Moore is doing his thing and being a top 5 wide receiver, I can now trade him for a Kenyon Drake or an Austin Eckler or a James Conner or something like.
You can't trade a top 5 wide receiver for a top 5 running back. No, but it's not a smart trade to trade for a top 5 wide receiver.
Yeah,
if
like
you have the top 5.
I mean, you
You're
can
gonna
if
get
you
more-
go to the.
you're
If
gonna
you're a
get
good
more of a
trader,
haul.
you can.
You're going to get more of a haul for a running back. I think that's the only point, is that there's a preference towards running back, especially in a standard league. All right, so we've got the rest of this team working through here. Austin.
Yeah, so I got through the end of the squad there and just breaking it down there. Wide receivers are obviously looking really nice. Depth at wide receiver is good. Miles Sanders and Cam Akers are your presumed 2 starting running backs. Maybe Damian Harris grabs the lead job in New England. That'd be super nice for you. It's just not a very upside team. You got Aaron Rodgers, God bless him. Love him as my Packers quarterback, but in a Matt LaFleur system, I'm not stoked about the amount of pass attempts per game. So the upside at the quarterback position is diminished. The upside at your running back 2 position is diminished. Depth is pretty nice over here. I like Hayden Hurst. No slack on that. This is like a B minus squad. It's okay. B minus.
I wouldn't disagree too much with that take. I think the running back depth scares me a little bit on this team, like as we were talking, and the quarterback there. So
I would give it a.
I would probably say C plus. I think
I would do.
I love the
B.
wide receivers, but
I give it a B. All right, last team here. We'll wrap it up. Nick Chubb, then Aaron Jones, took Amari Cooper and Tyler Lockett, then DeAndre Swift, Russell Wilson, Mecole Hardman, James White, Robbie Anderson, Jerick McKinnon, Noah Fant, Michael Pittman Jr., and Chris Herndon. This team is okay. I definitely love Nick Chubb balling all the all the way to 12. That's great. Aaron Jones, I mean, as an RB2, that's fine. I like the DeAndre Swift as an RB3. I think this team will be solid. I don't know if it's going to have it's lacking depth at the bench. Like this one's really lacking depth at the bench. I would give this one a B. Be like the Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett. I actually B plus. I give this a B plus because I like the Nick.
I don't know.
I don't like it. I'm not a big fan. I'm a little nervous about Aaron Jones, where he's going to finish the year. I'm nervous about DeAndre Swift and his lack of guaranteed role. We've talked really a long time about Cooper and the Gallup dynamic and what a disproportionate value those two guys offer. I love the Tyler Lockett pick there, just as Travi said, going after DK. What about you, Travi?
I mean, I like it. I don't love Cooper, but I understand it. Like, there's some upside here. Like, maybe the hate for Aaron Jones has gotten a little too far. Like, we have been screaming, hey, free Aaron Jones, free Aaron Jones. He's really good. He's really effective. And then, like, all of a sudden they draft another running back who's got big thighs, and we're like, goo goo gaga over it. But, like, maybe the idea here is that if they are such a run voluminous team, Aaron Jones is going to be just fine. And yeah, sure, A.J. Dillon will do his thing, but like even if you took away how many touchdowns did Aaron Jones score last year? 19 total touchdowns. Like even if you took away and he scored 10 total touchdowns, like he was still an RB1 or a borderline RB15 within there. So it's like there's a lot of things here to say like maybe Aaron Jones is getting just a little too much hate in this offense. And if they are going to be a run heavy team, he's going to be the first crack. Plus, if we're talking about all the wide receivers they didn't draft, who's one of the guys that's a focal point of the wide receiver of the pass catching offense? It's Aaron Jones. Like he's been a pass catcher for them. He's done good work in the passing game. Don't love Amari Cooper, but I could understand why you would go with Amari Cooper. He's got the upside play, and then I think Lockett's the floor. So I don't mind what he did there. Yeah. Swift is an upside play. Russell Wilson's good. McCole Hardman, Johnny's going to love that. James White, I think, is going to have a role. I don't particularly love it. I love what he did at tight end, though. Noah Fant and Chris Herndon, I think, are both guys that could play some upside. For me, I think this is a B plus. I think he's got a lot of things here that could work for him, and he did a lot of ceiling plays, which I like. I tend to gravitate towards going for a lot more ceiling.
One thing I wanted to add there with the Aaron Jones pick to loop it in the conversation from earlier. Say last year, Aaron Jones was on my team in our league of record, and I took him in the 3rd round, and I think my bold prediction was that Aaron Jones is going to be a top 5 running back. And I believe he wasn't finished as a top 5 running back. This year, though, I am not going to be taking Aaron Jones at the current ADP for the point that I mentioned earlier. In the 1st round, 2nd round for me, I don't need to be swinging for fences on guys with massive question marks next to them. And this year, with the A.J. Dillon picked up, with Matt LaFleur's propensity to be starting multiple running backs from like no apparent reason. You'd be watching the game last year and it's like, wait, Aaron Jones just did a beast mode run. Why is Jamal Williams on the field right now? So I am frustrated oftentimes by how Matt LaFleur puts the players on the field. And I think that with a running back like A.J. Dillon and those massive thighs that Matt LaFleur himself is goo goo gaga over, it's now becoming a San Francisco 49ers type backfield, which I think everybody in the NFL is looking to replicate, whether it's Sean McVay or whether it's Matt LaFleur. And because of that, in the 2nd round, I'm looking to get a guy with more stability who has less question marks. And I think a guy like Kenyon Drake or James Conner even has less of that than Aaron Jones does. And you're picking him up at his ceiling right here. And I don't think his ceiling is going to be what it was last year. I don't know how it could be. So I don't hate it, but at the ADP, like end of the 1st,
yeah, I get it, but it's also like that's the turn. Like he's gonna have to take him there if he wants him. He's not gonna get him if he doesn't come around.
Reach for your guy. If you
you got,
he's gone.
There.
Yeah, if you don't get him there, you're not getting him.
All right, guys. Well, we did it here. We walked through this Wednesday night mock, and we did it. 12 team standard draft. We loved Whisper Nation showing up and showing out. Leave us a comment. Leave us a like if you love what you saw. And as always, I'm Big Travi. That's Johnny Game Time Hicks. Austin Sear, the host of tonight's show. We are the Fantasy Whispers. We love you, and we're out. Peace.
Love you so much.
Love you so freaking much.